This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Some reason I love the dance to that upbeat techno music that we have for our open music, courtesy of our good friends at renderforest.com, not a sponsor. With that in mind, though, folks, happy Monday night and welcome into another live edition of C2C at Night, the late night sports recap show here on Coast to Coast Entertainment, alongside that man, James Gonzales, back from Los Angeles, up in Oceanside, California. Yours truly, Callan and McClurg, joining you here in sunny San Diego, California. James, my man, good to see you. A very, very chaotic week of sports, from the baseball playoffs all the way down to college football. The NHL regular season officially kicks off in the States on Tuesday with a triple header. Week 5 of the NFL season, NBA preseason is underway, my man. Let the good times roll, big game. James, good to see you, buddy. How we doing tonight?
Yeah, I just can't wait till next week and when I get to watch all this, or at least have the night shift off and watch it the rest of the week here. Yeah, I can't wait for the Padre game, tomorrow. And man, a lot going on, and we'll get to all of it, of course.
Yeah, we have every base covered, folks, tonight here on C2C at Night, from Major League Baseball and the divisional series, Week 5 of the NFL, with James recapping that, I should say, the NBA preseason officially underway. The NHL regular season kicks off in the States on Tuesday after their opening weekend in Prague, Czech Republic. And again, chaos ensued in college football. So again, if you're hanging out here, folks, on a late night Monday here in Southern California, wherever you may be viewing us from, as always, folks, we invite your input. As always, get involved in our program if you like. Again, questions, comments, concerns, hot takes, cold takes, loony takes, you name it. Drop them in our live chat box. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that your voice is heard and that your commentary is read live on the air. And again, if you want to, give us a follow on your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, or even on YouTube. Again, subscribe, hit that like button, and follow us across our platforms. And again, stay tuned for all of our great content here on C2C. With that, James, in mind, again, man, the division series in baseball is well underway, and Sarah Langs, my man, the great MLB researcher, James, pulled a nice rabbit out of the hat today. This is the first time ever in DS history that all 4 series are now tied 1 game apiece. And I think, James, everyone wants to talk about the hottest series of them all. And it's, I think, James, both series right now in the National League. We'll start, though, my man, in our backyard here in San Diego and in Southern California. Dodgers, Padres, third time in 5 years of these two SoCal teams have combated in the postseason. And certainly, James, high drama, high emotion, high intensity. You name it, it's got it, man. And certainly, I believe, James, has now officially made this a rivalry after all the years of denial from Dave Roberts and from Dodger players and the Dodgers organization. This now solidifies the third time in 5 years, James. This now makes this a rivalry. Both teams split in L.A., a 7-5 Dodger win in Game 1 after the Dodgers chased Dylan Cease after Shohei Ohtani hit a game-tying 3-run homer. This was after the Padres went ahead 3-0 early in the game. Both starters, both Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Cease, were both quickly given the heave-ho after 3 rough outings of play. Padres went back in front but could not hold that lead as L.A. won at 7-5. Then, of course, James, last night on Sunday was a game that sadly became James, overclouded and clouded, I should say, my man, again, by the very ugly, embarrassing scenes for Dodger fans, throwing the beer cans and the balls at Jurickson Profar and Fernando Tatis Jr. But either way, the Padres clubbed 6 homers in this game. Get the Jack Flaherty somewhat early again. Go up early. Don't let the lead slip away. Yu Darvish was phenomenal in this game. And the Padres drubbed the Dodgers 10-2, coming back to San Diego on Tuesday and Wednesday for games 3 and 4. It'll be Michael King, who had a great outing last Tuesday to kick off the postseason run for the Pods against the right now somewhat in a way shaky Walker Buehler, coming in with a 1-6 regular season record. Again, he's coming off a couple of injuries. But of course, James, game 1 happened. I was at work. You were away. And of course, game 2 happened. And this was a game, James, that looked like it was almost a borderline repeat. Again, Padres go up early. Fernando Tatis Jr. solo homer to get the night started. Padres tack on 2 more in the top of the second inning with David Peralta's 2-run homer. Dodgers get a run back. Tommy Edman lines out in a very, I think, game-changing double play to Luis Arraez. Padres kind of in a way go back up 4-1. Then, James, all the chaos ensues after the earlier incident of the Jurickson Profar robbed homer, his playful banter at the time with the fan who nearly caught the ball, and stuff of that caliber. Then, of course, James, it escalates, though, with Jack Flaherty and Manny Machado exchanging barbs after the big strikeout. Again, competitive fire. I don't want to hear any nonsense from anybody about it being this or that. That's competitive nature in that type of an environment. Again, I've been there several times on both ends of it, where it's a big strikeout, ballparks going bananas. And then, of course, the barbs are exchanged. Flaherty gets pulled. They still flap at it. They're still going at it. When Flaherty's out of the game and the Padres go back on defense, again, there's now that new story that broke about the ball being thrown by Machado in the direction of Dave Roberts, allegedly. And then, of course, James, that's when all the debris begins to rain down. Balls being thrown towards Jurickson Profar. The beer being thrown towards Fernando Tatis Jr. Todd Lights, the Dodgers PA announcer, having to make announcements to stop throwing stuff on the field. The Padre bullpen was showered with debris. Jeremiah Strasburg to throw some hands. And really, James, it got ugly for all the wrong reasons. And all I'm going to say here, folks, is as simple as this. I don't care if you bleed Dodger blue or if you are a part of the Friar Faithful. No one fan base is squeaky clean. I'm saying that as a born and raised San Diego native, a born and raised Padre fan. And I know, James, I told you this earlier in the evening we were planning out the show. Though the actions of those fans, they don't equal the actions of our friends who are Dodger fans. Looking at you, Casey King, Christian Allen, people that I know very well who are Dodger fans. Those people that were throwing that crap on the field and, giving double birds to Tatis and to Profar, they don't represent the entire Dodger fan base. Everyone in the comic box, though I won't, I don't want to hear any of that nonsense on the screen, because guess what? Your hometown fan base, whoever it might be, you're just as guilty of your own misbehavior. That includes my organization in San Diego. That includes the Dodger fan base, the Yankee fan base, the Braves when they threw all the crap on the field in the 2012 wild card game. No fan base in any sport are saints. They're not the greatest thing since sliced bread. So don't give me any of that bull crap on this program that there is a perfect, squeaky clean fan base in baseball, in basketball, in football, hockey, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, college sports, you name it. None of us, none of you, none of us, not James, not even me, nobody out there is perfect when it comes to how they cheer for their fans. That is all I'm going to say. But don't let that be an interpretation of the good pocket of fans who go to those games, support their team, and in a way maybe boo, but they're not going out here throwing baseballs and Coors Light cans full to the brim at players that they don't like on the opposing team. And I think, James, I want to just kind of, in a way, put that kibosh down right now and just say again, every fan base is guilty. I don't care who you are or who you like. Everyone out there is guilty of something in some capacity across the entire ballpark and arena. So don't give me any of that bull crap on this program that there's a squeaky clean, picture-perfect, guardian angel style fan base, because all of us are guilty in some capacity. And I know that a lot of people, I think, James, it was a fair point, though. Last night was an embarrassment for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know, James, I just brought up about the Braves with what happened with the infield fly rule in 2012, how they had showered the field with, plastic beer bottles and cans, and they had their own snafu breakout. And I'm sure Other fan bases have done that, James. But it did, though, James, feel a lot like a very good pro wrestling match. You've got the heel, the LA Dodgers, the almighty Dodgers who spend and spend and spend. And they always seem to lock up and get big name superstars on their roster. You've got the face of the good guy, the San Diego Padres. And I don't want to hear about what Profar did earlier in the game because the fan even pointed, hey, that was a great catch, so on and so forth. Then and then the fan does what he does, later on in the ball game. But regardless, James, it had that billing of that great, WWF Attitude Era, WrestleMania main event last night. Again, the fans getting involved for all the wrong reasons. And again, that doesn't represent the people that I know that are Dodger fans who don't act like those imbeciles at the Ravine last night. But regardless, James, now that we go to game 3 here in San Diego on Tuesday, again, Michael King, 12 strikeout game last Tuesday against the Braves. And of course, the Dodgers, James, are walking in, literally the walking wounded again. Freddie Freeman, sadly, had to leave the game early again. That injured ankle has not really, I think, let him fully play to his potential. And he got robbed on a great catch by Fernando Tatis Jr. In right field as the game wore on. And then just finally said, you know what, I don't want to push this anymore. And Dave Roberts, I believe, did say that he's hopeful, but again, still not quite there. Xander Bogaerts suffered a calf or a hamstring cramp during his AB, where he hit the 5th Padre home run in the game after the whole delay happened. Again, the Padres hit 6 home runs in that game on Sunday to set a new club record for single home runs in a single postseason game. So, James, again, the storylines, though, that should have been talked about, man, like I said before we came on the air, all the major headlines. Freeman leaves the game early. Bogaerts leaves with the cramp. Those two storylines, James, are flipping footnotes because debris is thrown on the field. Profar and Tatis mouthing off to the fans. Again, they could have been even looking at their own Padre fans that were there for all that we know. But again, with how the camera angles are, then we have the new layer added on Monday at the press conference today, where Dave Roberts alleges that Machado is throwing a ball out of play, where again, play's over and it's being thrown out of play, that it was thrown his way with some, intent behind it. Flaherty and Machado had their ups, but then Flaherty kind of said, regardless of what happened, I had to make a better pitch to Tatis when he hit the homer off me, and I really should have handled my emotions better in that situation. And I think both Machado and Flaherty handled it well, and I think they both said it right. This is competitive postseason baseball. We can't be sugarcoating this and not holding that emotion when you strike out one of the best players on the opposition in a big spot, though, down by 3 runs. Then maybe they do exchange some barbs or whatnot. But again, that is just the nature of the playoffs. I know it will rub some people the wrong way of, the Padres are a villain. You know what? I love that role because, again, like I said a long time ago, whenever have the Padres been looked at as a villain? Ever since 2020, when, again, they began the bat flips and the unwritten rules became a thing. But regardless, though, James, let's not detract away from what we have seen over 2 games because of some nimwits in the stands, throwing balls and beer that they spent $25 on towards the direction of 2 players on the opposing team that now all of a sudden they now claim as a rival. When we've been saying it's been a rivalry, even despite, the lack of success in San Diego. But regardless, James, on the field of play, we're not going to talk about the nimwits in the stands anymore. But, James, overall thoughts, though, on 2 highly competitive, high-octane games, and including, James, the Padres really breaking out the lumber in Game 2 at the Ravine on Sunday.
Yeah, Game 1 I was kind of keeping track of, but, man, it felt like the Padres kind of blew it there. The pitching later on blew it. They had a 3-0 lead to start. I was with all these Dodger fans at a softball event, and everybody was panicking there. But
not surprising.
Yeah, but Dodgers had enough offense then to get it done. But when you look at Game 2, had just about everything like you mentioned. You mentioned Flaherty and Machado getting into it. I remember when Seattle was at Dodger Stadium. I can't remember what game it was of that series, but he and Randy Rosarena were getting into it, and it was Flaherty who started the jawing So Flaherty has a knack to get it started, but he always got the outs. But eventually, Flaherty was out. He got the loss, and um, that was amazing power by the Padres late. I mean, Bogarts to do that takes baseballs. That was just amazing to see that, and then just to tack on. You never know. You
Especially
gotta
against
score
that
what you
lineup.
can. Yeah, you gotta score what you can. And maybe it felt like they were piling on, but it was that pitcher.
Edgardo Rodriguez.
Yeah, he just kept throwing it down the middle and right there, and he had all those home runs, and it probably felt good, of course. And yeah, just a crazy night. Also, I think Darvish kind of gets thrown aside, but he had a game to remember.
Big time.
Maybe revenge for that 2017 Game 7 start
John
that he had
Smoltz
with the
talked about
Dodgers.
that a heavy deal on the broadcast on FS1 on Sunday.
Yeah, I was happy to see that for you, Darvish. Also facing Shohei, that must have had an extra layer of butterflies into that. I could say that. When you face someone and from your country, that's crazy. And he handled that really well. I know Otani did homer the other day, or the first game, I believe, as well. But
yes,
I cannot wait for tomorrow. Like I mentioned, I love the idea of the Padres. The fan base. Not LA County, but Southern Orange County, San Diego. Was it Vegas and Imperial County can only buy the tickets for the games. I kind of like that idea you saw in 22, how it really looked like a true, fan base for that Padres playoff run. So that was very cool to see. I cannot wait. And was it King for
King versus Buehler?
Buehler, who's 1-6, and there was times where he looked really lost this year, and hopefully the Padres can get to him, kind of early. And I believe he's a free agent too, so this might be the last start you see him in the Dodger blue. We'll know if someone throws money at him or not. But yeah, I cannot wait for Game 3. And I'll say one thing about what happened where...
Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen that before with Dodger fans. It's just an ongoing issue for years. And it's done in different ways. I saw all these little videos of people getting arrested, fighting, and then all the ones we saw of going on in the stands and throwing stuff or whatever. I had my brother there with his daughters and his girlfriend, and I literally texted them. I said, hey, be safe, be aware of your surroundings and all that. So when I saw all that going on, and they were up in the second level down the right field line, I'm like, crap, that's going right where, Tatis is happening. And he was telling me, like, oh, yeah, they're throwing stuff from the second level, from the third above where they are. Luckily, they didn't get wet from anything. But, yeah, when the Dodger fan base, when those certain people ruin it for someone, when they're losing, that's the way they show themselves. It's not all of them, but it's like one spoiled apple ruins it for everyone else, let's just say. But
that goes to my earlier point.
But there's more than just one apple, as we saw. So Game 3, and I love what Mike Shields said, I think yesterday or today, post-game, where he's like, yeah, that won't happen here in San Diego. They're classy. So, and I saw Shield, when he went out there, he was really serious about what was going on, and even talking to the fans or making a gesture toward him as well. Keeping his outfielders, safe, and man, it's part of that playoff intensity. But the fans always take it to a certain level. But I can't wait to see Game 3. Michael King just making a name for himself in his first start in the playoffs, and let's hope he duplicates it.
So again, folks, despite, all the, on-field drama, off-the-field drama, it's been a great series. Padres and Dodgers tied at 1, heading back to Petco Park on Tuesday for Game 3. Michael King will face Walker Buehler for San Diego versus Los Angeles. Again, just kind of wanted, try to put a kibosh on that. And I think Manny Machado even said that he's turned the page after what's gone on or what had gone on in Game 2. Again, and we all have to do that now, and I think that, James, one thing I will say real quick is I noticed this in some of the post-game media. And even earlier today, I came across first of all, let me get to this. One of the press conferences I recall seeing was of Dodgers infielder Max Muncy. And it was a telling sign. And Max was, asked about what had happened and stuff. And he said, and I think, and even James, Dave Roberts, Jack Flaherty, and I know a lot of people said, oh, well, the Dodgers needed to go up there and stop it. You expect the players and the manager to go out there and stop that crap? This isn't Ron, this isn't, Ron or Ed Romero coaching the Brewers back in the day at County Stadium, getting on the mic and having to tell the fans to stop throwing baseballs on the field. Don't expect those players to go out there and tell the fan base to stop because, a running joke was that they did. Fans would be throwing stuff at them because of how they've been playing over the course of the series so far, despite the win. But James, Max Muncy, though, his post-game media availability to MLB Network, ESPN, Fox, and Dodger Radio and Dodger TV was very telling. Not for the fact of that he said, they beat the shit out of us. That was his kind of his quote. But I was reading the body language. Very, very tone-deaf voice, very, down on the dumps, and just kind of like, yeah, it's whatever. The body language, James, from Max Muncy was kind of telling. Now, this isn't to say that the Pods will win the next 2 games, but though, James, getting shellacked at home in that fashion, what happened with the fans, the Dodger morale in a way, James, just judging off one snippet of an interview of Max Muncy and his body language, his demeanor, man. Oh, baby, I think it is the pressure is now on for the Dodgers going forward in Game 3 and Game 4.
What it could be with Maxie was like, hey, I'm often injured, and I come back for this, and we're losing. We're on our way to lose again like this since 2021, and he's been here for all that, so he's feeling the emotions of all that, of all those years combined, of missing games and then playing in games, playing in those playoff series in which they lost. So all that's, I think, hitting them at the same time that they get blown out of their own stadium that game. So I think that he felt all that, and it was all rushing in for the loss. Now, let me mention this too. I think this happened, in 2022, I want to say. I think Miles Straw, some of the Guardians were getting heckled by the Yankee right, or was it left field
bleachers? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the only reason the Yankee players were out there is because it was a walk-off hit, or else you remember you saw Judge and Stanton out there telling the fans stop throwing stuff at the players. That was the only, time I've seen that where, players got involved to say, hey, the home team got involved to do that. So I had to bring that up. And then one more thing about Machado, I always, I forget who questioned him if he was a leader or not. And I think he showed it after that.
When they called the meeting while the whole fray was finally simmering down.
Yeah, that nationally, I think, solidified him as being the leader of the team. I know we've seen it locally, of course, but, nationally, that really showed right there. We know his mound visits. He's right there with words of encouragement. Even after the bullpen coach leaves, but our pitching coach, leaves. So that just showed That reminded me in the same dugout in 2017, Justin Verlander, after his start, he went out there, arms out, guns out, giving the Astros a pep talk, and they went on to win, of course. Bang bang, that Game 7 of that World Series.
I got one more for you, James, that wasn't brought up on the broadcast, but I know it was under different circumstances. What about Jason Hayward during the rain delay in 2016 in Game 7 of the World Series versus Cleveland?
Oh yeah, was that actually shown, or was I
it
can't
wasn't
remember.
shown, but it happened. It
Okay.
still, happened because FS1 even showed David Ortiz, similar situation in the 2013 World Series versus the Cardinals. Same thing, brought the guys in to stay focused. You know what, James? Despite the bad rap that maybe Joe Davis has gotten for being the Dodger local TV broadcaster calling this series, John Smoltz, James, has been a tremendous color analyst in this series. And John went so far in depth yesterday during that delay and during that huddle where he's like, when you're in the playoffs, your mind can wander because of how loud it is, the intensity. James, I was hearing him say that, you know what? John's right, because when I was at Petco on Tuesday for Game 1 versus Atlanta, I experienced that same exact thing standing in right field. Couldn't hear myself think. My ears were ringing. Couldn't talk to either of my friends. Hell, my friend had an ulcer during the game and had to leave and had to go to the hospital when the game ended on Tuesday.
God.
Like, John Smoltz was so right about what playoff baseball can be when you have 47,000 people, for example, in San Diego, not to, again, discredit the 54,000 at Dodger Stadium, but when you have that kind of a crowd, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, again, for the millionth time in this segment, your mind can drift. You can't hear yourself think. You can't talk to the person sitting next to you or standing next to you. And sadly, it sometimes even leads to ulcers or kidney stones being a thing. And certainly, I thought that was a great point, though, brought up, though. And I do think, James, that even Ken Rosenthal, who I know is still kind of in a way public enemy number one for, again, that whole thing involving, hey, Scherzer and Trey Turner going to the Padres in 2021. Rosenthal, though, James, had a great sideline report. And he, in a way, James said what you had just kind of in a way talked about. Here, Manny Machado has been labeled dirty, a cancer, hustling's not his cup of tea. Like he said, all those barbs thrown his way. But the nation, like you said, though, just got to see a glimpse of his leadership. Again, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, the nation got to see that firsthand on Sunday. And I think, James, that right there, in a way, better begin to hopefully get those narratives off of him, but I know it won't. But regardless, we'll move on. Again, great series. Padres Dodgers will resume play on Tuesday at 6:08 p.m. from Petco Park in San Diego. James, will move on to the other kind of, in a way, hot-blooded series out in the NLDS on the East Coast. Mets and Phillies, James, if you can believe it, man, it's the first time ever these two have faced off in the postseason, and it's felt a little bit like Padres Dodgers. Again, a lot of barbs, a lot of chirping going on. Again, nothing revolving, guys getting hit by a pitch or any of that sort of stuff. But there has been a lot of jabbering or jaw jacking going on and barbs being exchanged. It's a split. It's a 1-1 tie heading into Flushing in Game 3. Phillies walked off in Game 2. The Mets stole Game 1 in Philadelphia for the split. James, what have you liked so far in the series, man? And I think, James, we both can admit that we are wrong. The Mets have shown no signs of slowing down despite what they had gone through at the very end of the regular season.
I was kind of happy for the Mets.
At least get a game in Philly is huge.
Yeah, and going back to the wild card series, I had the Mets in 3, and it took that Pete Alonso home run to make it happen. And I thought, man, they're on their way, but, man, they're going to face the Phillies right away. And they win Game 1, do the Mets 6-2, and that was kind of a surprise. I thought they're going to come out flat again. But they won Game 1 in that series, and they won Game 1 in this series. It took a five-run 8th inning, though. It was it was nothing until then for the Mets. It just shows you, the close games that they've played this year against each other. It's been really fun. And then yesterday was just tremendous. Comeback effort by each team.
Yes.
That's something you got to love when it comes to the playoffs. Of course, it didn't meet up until now. I was just thinking, oh, well, they didn't meet up because there was only one divisional winner, and the Braves kept winning all the divisions back in the day, so they can
16
never
straight,
meet up.
baby. 16
Yeah,
straight.
but I'm remembering the '07 when the Mets had their failure in '08, and when the Phillies took over then as well, and going on to win in '08 as well. So this has been a long time coming for these two fan bases. So I haven't seen much of this series, but I'm happy to say, hey, I want to see Citi Field alive and well, for a home playoff game. I can't wait to see that crowd and how they're going to be. That is going to be electric. Aaron Nola's going to go for Philly. He's solid, and then Sean Manaea going to go for the Mets, and he's been a surprise.
What a resurrection of his career. Unreal.
I didn't expect this at all. He's 12-6. He's pitching like he did in Oakland. It's weird. I guess it just takes the right coaching, the right confidence, the right situation, the right vibe, and the OMG Mets. They're all over the place right now. So I cannot wait for this series to continue. What was it, 11 a.m.? I'll be watching. That's for sure.
James, what would you feel? Pat Murphy, Manager of the Year, Carlos Mendoza, Manager of the Year. Who do you think? I would say Shildt, but I think, though, that I don't know if that's really a foregone conclusion. I lean towards Murphy, first full season being a manager. Same with Carlos Mendoza. I think this might be a very close race at the very end for how the writers vote for Manager of the Year.
Is there NLA? This NLAL, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I feel like it goes Murphy, Mendoza, Shildt in that order. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. I know it's a regular season award, but
division championship probably outweighs a wild card, honestly.
The Mets were done. I know they only had, and this is kind of the same thing we talk about in the American League too, with one team being dead and all of a sudden they rise. One team not supposed to be there, and all of a sudden,
Detroit,
team like Kansas City's there.
Kansas City.
It's almost similarity in a way, but yeah, I'll go with that order, I guess, just because we didn't know what the Brewers were going to be. The starter, what Woodruff was going to be.
Woodruff was gone. Burns was gone. No Adrian Hauser.
Yeah, so we didn't know about Pat Murphy and how he'll do as a full-time manager. Yeah, I guess I'll go there.
With that, James, will segue from the NL to the American League. Another great series, another divisional war between the Tigers and Guardians. It's been nothing but shutouts. What flavor bagel do you like on the scoreboard, James? 7-0 Cleveland in Game 1. Kerry Carpenter 3-run game-winning homer for the Tigers in the top of the 9th inning and not just that, James, off of Emmanuel Clase, the shutdown closer for Cleveland. So 2 games, 1-1 split, and one team has not scored a run in either game. We've had a shutout of Detroit and now vice versa, where the Uno reverse card comes out. So, James, Game 3 going to Motown on Wednesday after the off day on Tuesday. Well, James, we got a series, and at the rate we're going, it's going to be shutouts across the board here. Am I right?
And again, I cannot wait to see that Detroit home crowd for a playoff game. It's been since 2014 since they've had a playoff game to go to. They could hold off on the Lions' excitement at least for one more week.
Yes.
And I just love that for the fans. I mean, especially the season ticket holders, the one who's been through this crap with the Tigers. I just love what they got going. Yes, Saturday, on my way up north, and I got to the bowling alley. It's 7-0. What the hell? Oh man,
the Tigers are first inning. That game felt over after the first inning.
And they added 2 in the 6th, and they went on and did the Guardians, and you felt like, man, we'll see if the Tigers come back. And it took a heroic effort, just like it did in Game 2 of the Houston series, to oust them. Like you mentioned with the home run.
My goodness, though, James, Tarek Skubal is a flipping animal, man. That is a guy I will. That is a guy I will stop what I'm doing and watch pitch, and he has just been nothing short of spectacular so far for Detroit in his debut against Houston and here against Cleveland in Game 2.
Yeah, his fastball is really working.
Had a no-hitter through 5 innings.
Yeah, that was really good to see. Of course, I saw the highlights, before we came on, and I was just amazed at the defensive efforts by both teams. There was that Quan catch that looked like a trap, but I think it got into the lower part of the glove and
It caught just enough of the leather to be caught,
I think. And then Meadows, I think the next half inning had that leaping catch in left center. And then it seemed like with Skubal, any type of trouble that he got into, the infield was able to get the double plays turned.
I was just going to say that Cleveland lost this game, James, in my opinion, because they could not come through with guys on base. And every time they got guys on base, GIDP to end the inning.
That was the big keys of the game, I think. And then I got to give a shout out to Noel. I think they call him Big Christmas.
Oh, that throw from right field, yeah. My goodness.
When I saw that, I had visions of Vladdy Sr. again. And this was the same guy, remember, again, he's 0 for 4 at bats, but you didn't really expect defense to be a thing. And I think earlier in the game, I want to say in the second inning, I think he had a big catch in foul territory, threw it in. But that was an unexpected catch because he's he's a little smaller than Framel Reyes.
Yeah.
But the similarities are kind of there looking. But Hedges, I think, framed well behind the plate for Cleveland. That's kind of his specialty there. If not the bat, it's his fielding.
Yeah, if I can interject, because about Austin Hedges, and that's why he was always an everyday catcher with the Padres, until he got dealt. I want to say 2021, 2022, or, somewhere in that.
21.
21 when he first got dealt to Cleveland, I believe, in the trade for they made the trade with Cleveland for Mike Clevenger, I believe, during the COVID season. But I was just going to bring that up, though, about a light-hitting defensive player. Jake Cronenworth for the Pods has been 0 for in the postseason. Mookie Betts has been scuffling big time. Noel, as you mentioned, and Austin Hedges. Those 4 guys, James, to me, I will trade the strikeouts and the offers and the box score to have their glove defensively, James, because you know what? It reminds me so much of some guy named Brad Ausmus. Cannot hit himself out of a brown paper bag, but he had to have his glove in the lineup behind the plate because that's your best catching option. So, James, how would you, or I guess your stance or thoughts about maybe keeping someone not really hitting well, but knowing their defensive prowess, having them still in the lineup, even if they're kind of right now a bona fide automatic out?
I never thought about that with Ausmus. I remember him mostly, with the Astros later on, and he would always be starting those games. But the thing is,
James, he would have games, I think, if I went back in my scorebook from 98, there's like 0 for 4 strikeouts, 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, a ground out, fly out, but you need to have that guy in the lineup.
You could always pitch hit for them later. That's one thing.
I think Mike Shilton did a great job of, I think, James, this whole year is kind of in a way platooning, getting the right guys. And James, I'll give Dave Roberts credit for that, though, too. I mean, sadly, I know that they had to do it yesterday on Sunday when, with Freddie's ankle barking at him. But, they had to maneuver. They had to move Muncy from third to first, put Kike Hernandez in. And that's also, James, I think, why the playoffs are so intriguing, because now you get more of the chess games about matchups lefty on lefty out of the bullpen, a la Tanner Scott versus Ohtani, righty on righty, pinch hitting for the catcher, a pinch runner here or there. So I definitely, James, think, though, that even though Cronenworth and Betts and all these other guys like Noel and Hedges and Cronenworth and Betts are scuffling, I'd rather trade the offers at the plate to have their glove in the field to make a, big-time game-saving play, a la Noel's throw to, cut down the runner going to second base on that potential double.
Yeah, I yelled when that throw happened. And this is just watching the highlights. That's how much I loved throwing people out in a random ass softball game. I
In
love
general,
seeing
like if
that.
it's in high school or
Yeah.
college or, like you were saying, like a Saturday morning softball game over, a whole case of Corona. That's
Yeah.
beer, by the way.
So you mentioned replacing players. Now, with Bogarts, if he's unable to go, do you think Tyler Wade will play short for San Diego in Game 3?
Yeah, I've heard the phony baloney stuff of, let's move Fernando there. Let's put Merrill there. No, they're fine. They're fine where they are because they all made they all made great catches in the outfield on Sunday. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's why you have a guy like Tyler Wade to play short, or if need be, you move Cronenworth to short and let Wade play second. Like now you kind of in a way have to think about that, though I believe, though, James, that Bogey should be fine after that cramp. And again, hoping that we have Freddie Freeman in the order for the Dodgers. Just that, James, you want all the star players to be in every game, and you hate that injuries happen and stuff, like what happened on Sunday in LA happens. But I want Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman playing and hitting 1 through 3 for the Dodgers. Like, I don't want excuses, about, well, we had no pitching. Well, Freddie got hurt, though. Every team's gone through their share of adversity. And I think as a baseball fan, again, ignore the hat behind me, but as a baseball fan, I want every team at full strength going down the stretch run here as we enter the last half of the postseason. With that, James, one last baseball series, an old-time rivalry from back in the day, the Royals and the Yankees. What a game in Game 1, man. 5 different lead changes, a new playoff record. And then in Game 2, Royals sting back and get the Yankees good 4-2. So they are tied 1-1, James, heading back to Kansas City for their first playoff game since the 2015 World Series. James, always nice to see like a old-time rivalry kind of get rejuiced here. But I'll tell you what, man, Kansas City had a great night here. And also that first game, James, may have been so far the best game of this postseason with, again, just the seesaw battle, big hit for KC, big hit for the Yankees. This happens, that happens. Then tonight, though, the Royals finally, in a way, get their first knockout blow of the series, though. James, what do you like so far between KC and the Yanks?
Unfortunately, I never saw the highlights of that first game. But the second game, I love that George Brett was there, and they kept cutting to him up in the box level.
So he got the T Swift treatment today, it sounds like.
He was up there in the suite level or whatever in special seats, and he was giving it to the Yankee fans down below him. And every time the Royals scored, was basically that fourth inning, I think it was,
where they came in one inning.
They finally got to Rodon, and he was cruising like the first 2 innings. He was cruising. Did Rodon?
I believe he struck out the side to start the game.
That's right. Yeah, and that's when you could tell.
And James, here's something interesting that I heard on the TBS postgame show. And by the way, their crew this year is great. Lauren Shahadi is hosting, Curtis Granderson, Pedro Martinez, Jimmy Rollins, and Dusty Baker making his TV debut.
Back?
Yeah, but
yeah.
But James, there was an interesting tidbit I caught wind of though when they were discussing, the game. Pedro Martinez had a very interesting quip about Rodon striking out the side. Pedro said, though, it's the worst nightmare to have as a pitcher if you strike out the side, because now everyone knows what you're throwing in a way, and it kind of in a way goes downhill from here. And I think to kind of a weird point, though, that fourth inning, the wheels came off the bus for the Yanks.
That's why I love Pedro Martinez. Because he's seen, he's been through the rigor of play postseason. Just go back to, I think it was 99. He had that 4 or 5 innings against Cleveland, and he was dominant. And that was like the first, real dominant performance by him in the spotlight.
The one that kind of put him on the map.
Yeah. Man, and that's why I love listening to him. And he can dissect everything. And I could kind of see that because after a while, the Royals, like you mentioned, that fourth inning, they
settled in.
It was like, hey, he threw me this last time. He's going to try to do it again, probably, because that's the book on me. He's going to try to do it again, so all I have to do is adjust and do do this next time. And that's what I think was going on. Garrett Hampson had a big impact in that game. I was just thinking he was really nothing with the Rockies, 8th or 9th hitter, and he's doing well here with the Royals. And
Tommy Pham, another waiver wire pickup, and here he is again thriving in the playoff race.
Yeah, when they made that move, I was kind of like, well, I hope he has something left because I really want to see him back in the postseason. If you go back to last season with Arizona, he was just solid against the Dodgers as well. So Reagan's had a good start. I was hoping
that he had a good outing too.
I was hoping he could have got to the fifth inning, but he only got 4. Yeah, just a lot. Two RBIs by Garcia and Hampson. I think that was a big deal. That was really good. Yankees, it's hard to keep that offense down, and the Royals pitching did it. You look at Soto; he didn't have a hit there. He was 0 for 3, and Judge was 0 for 3, and no, I'm sorry. Soto was 0 for 3, but Judge and Stanton were 1 for 4. So if you keep those big guys down in the lineup and make sure they don't have a big inning, probably going to hopefully win the game if you could score 4 or more, and it happened. Again, I cannot wait to see the Kauffman Stadium. We haven't seen playoff baseball there since 2015. And, with the Chiefs winning tonight and the Royals winning, Kansas City's alive. And it's both ways now. So it's great to see that. It's great to see, despite their stadium issues or whatever they want to do, it's good when the team's winning and that, they could rally for both teams. And that's very cool to see.
James, before we move on to the NFL, who are you more concerned about at the plate right now? Mookie Betts or Aaron Judge?
Man, that's a great question. Judge is probably 0 for or 1 for 5, maybe.
And I think he has the highest strikeout percentage in the postseason so far.
That's right. I think he struck out 4 times, I want to say, or 5 times out of the 8 at bats, or whatever it is.
Yeah, but again, James, who are you more concerned about at the plate? Betts with LA or Judge with the Yanks?
God, I feel like there's more pressure on Judge, but I think I'm more concerned about Betts because Freeman went down, and then I think Betts wants to shake off what happened last year, where I know the whole team didn't hit against Arizona, but you were thinking still. Mookie coming off of a MVP year. I don't think he wants to go through that again. The fans are getting on him again. The media is getting on him again. Something about Judge though being the MVP, it's almost like it's his. It's Betts is 23, is Judge is 24 in a sense. But I think Betts, there's more on him because Freeman went down, and you lose that protection in the lineup.
James, I would probably say that even though it's both, I think I side with Betts because I'm a big body language guy. And this is probably just because I played sports and I was always upbeat regardless of the score line, how good I played, how good the team was playing. But again, I go back to body language. And James, whenever Fox cut to Mookie in the field, you started seeing that it was beginning to kind of get up here in his head, like, That's what true. Do I have to do? Yep. Like here I hit a potential, game-tying homer, and Jurickson Profar makes a spectacular, robbery of my homer. Here I am celebrating, rounding second base, and Dino Ebel saying, no, he caught the ball. And it's almost like, what do I have to do to buy a hit, basically? Mm-hmm. But again, I read a lot of body language, James. Again, that's just, me playing baseball my whole life, and just sports in general. And I just saw, and I saw one cut to Mookie, I think late in the game when it was already well out of reach. And I could just tell, like, the gears are grinding, like, how do I get out of this funk? I think my approach is great, but I'm just not seeing, am I not seeing the ball well? Is it? And I think, James, I think Smoltz or even someone locally in town said it right, though. If Ohtani is not hitting well, it kind of brings the whole Dodger lineup down. It's like a giant domino effect. Then, James, your wrinkle, and you're so right. If Freddie can't play game 3, I think there's more pressure added on Mookie Betts and then maybe some on Shohei Ohtani. But I think, though, that Betts James is wearing it more because, again, mainly from what I've been saying about reading player body language. And it was very disheartening seeing, Mookie, playing his position and just like really just, I think, overthinking what do I have to do to break this, over I'm on, the strikeouts, the hard hit balls that are right at players, again, the robbed homer last night. And you just feel like you're making contact, but it's just not there. But again, folks, regardless, all 4 DS series tied 1 game apiece. Padres, Dodgers, Mets, Phillies, Guardians, and Tigers, and the Yankees and Royals are all tied at 1 game apiece. Heading to the next destination, which will be San Diego, Flushing, New York, Detroit, Michigan, and to Kansas City, Missouri for games 3 coming up on Tuesday in the NL side. And then all of the teams will be in action again on Wednesday afternoon and evening. And I just kind of wanted, again, folks, kind of clarify my commentary from earlier. I know I kind of, blew a gasket and stuff. I just don't want the actions of the fans who are throwing this garbage on the field to be a reflection of the good Dodger fans that James and I know personally. Again, our good guys, Casey King and Christian Allen, who I know very well, again, that they're, again, they're Dodger fans, they can say what they want about, F San Diego. But again, again, those people don't represent your fan base. I say the same thing about, the Padre fans who act up, the Philly fans who act up. They're not a full reflection of everybody else who's there with their family, their spouse, their friends. That's more of my point here is that don't group those people in with the true Dodger or true baseball fans who love and respect the game and whoever their teams are playing, James. I guess any final thoughts about that?
No. I just thought about a few more fans that I know that wouldn't do the same thing. But I still don't like them because they're wearing Dodger blue, though.
Yeah, I can kind of put that aside. I think just because I've worked in sports for so long, you learn to blur that, you learn to blur that, the fanhood line. And I've gotten used to it over 16 years. My friends can say what they want about me acting that way, but it's part of the job, sadly. So go kick rocks, even though if, regardless of who you are, please. With that in mind, James, we'll give you the floor, my man. Week 5 NFL season upsets. Raiders in turmoil, Browns in turmoil, games overseas being played, hour-long delays for heavy rain in Pittsburgh and lightning. James, give us your cliff notes of Week 5 in the NFL season.
The slowest 5 minutes in the world here for NFL football. Week 5, it started Thursday in the NFC South battle. That was a lot of fun to watch. I mean,
talk about a roller coaster. My goodness.
A Thursday night football game good. That was weird to see. Kirk Cousins.
That's about as good as me putting FIFA and good job in the same sentence. Thursday night football, great game, never in the same sentence.
That's what I was just about to say, never. Kirk Cousins threw for 509 yards, game walk-off touchdown to someone that nobody really knew.
You like that?
He could have done that. He was doing the swag surfing with the whole crowd there in Atlanta. They have a good fan section behind one of the end zones. It's really cool to see. I think they do the same thing for the MLS team at
that area was built to accommodate the supporter groups for Atlanta United.
I love that too. Everybody's got a flag.
To be a rival of San Diego FC in February of next year.
Everyone has a flag. All the concession prices are low, other from beer.
Hey, Chick-fil-A was open today too. Was open down there on Thursday.
It's the rare time that the Falcons game played on Sundays. Usually, at Chick-fil-A's. That's just stupid. Anyway, the Buccaneers lose that game by 6 on the walk-off. Baker Mayfield gave it his all. The running game finally did well for Tampa Bay, but Atlanta held on through the air. The Bucs defense is always very undermanned, it seemed like. Then we had Sunday morning, and it was the first game in London. It was the second international game. It was the Jets and Vikings. Sam Darnold didn't do as well, but the Viking defense did.
What day do you care for a 5-0 start for Minnesota?
I think everybody's shocked, but everybody is happy for Sam Darnold. Van Ginkel had that pick 6 against Rodgers.
Sam Darnold for comeback player of the year. Am I right?
Aaron Rodgers was crawling on his knees a couple of times. It kind of looked a little weird, but he was really getting banged up. You got to give credit to the Viking defense. kind of not trusting the Giants. Pretty much the whole division, you're not really trusting the AFC East. But yeah, credit to the Vikings getting the win overseas, and they're the feel-good story, I think, of the season, other from the Commanders.
I was going to say
Both
them
of
or
them.
Washington, yeah.
Both of them are a lot of fun. I think Caleb Williams had his first really, really good game. The Bears just blew out the Panthers 36-10. Bryce Young even came in to relieve Andy Dalton. That's how bad it was for Carolina.
Ooh, baby.
Speaking of putrid and filthy, the Cleveland Browns just get walloped by the Commanders 34-13. It was Washington in command the whole damn game. It was a lot of fun
and
to
James,
see.
I'm going to interject real quick. Again, I know I don't watch a lot of American football, but I saw a damning revelation made by the Browns writer for The Athletic, who just said it's simple. It's time to end this Deshaun Watson, marriage. Like, cut him loose, get it over with, eat the money, move on to somebody else.
Yeah, X was ruthless on Watson and his guaranteed contract. And I think one action I think described the season so far. It was literally a 4th and inches, 4th and 1 or something. They were on the territory of Washington, of course, and Deshaun Watson just walks away from the huddle, calls a timeout, and Stefanski, the coach, is looking at him, keeps looking at him as he's walking, and he doesn't look at anyone, doesn't say anything, puts his helmet down and sits down. And I think he's lost the desire to play, maybe a guilty conscience, let's just say.
Oh, just a little bit.
On and off the field. But yeah, Commanders, the other side, everything's bright and happy for the Commanders. Jalen Daniels did well again. He really spread the ball out very well.
Rookie of the
McLaurin,
year?
For now, yeah. McLaurin did well, so it was a great thing. And finally, I think all three of those rookie quarterbacks are starting. They all have a winning record, by the way. The Dolphins held on to beat the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots, they did give it their all, but Miami's defense did come up clutch at the end. And it's been, what is it, 9 years, I want to say, or no? Yeah, 9 years or 9 meetings the Jaguars have defeated the Colts in Jacksonville. That was a good back and forth game, and then Jags held on. They were up 14, and they just won by 3. So that was a really, really great finish to see. There was 2 other great finishes in the morning window. You had the Bills and the Texans. I thought, like on morning tailgate, I thought, oh, it's going to be a blowout. It's a revenge game for Diggs, but Houston only held on by 3. Fairbairn had a long field goal to win it.
Josh Allen concussed as well.
Yeah, he didn't have a really good game. I know he had one long touchdown pass, but that was pretty much it. He's been getting beat up the last 2 games. Remember in Baltimore last Sunday night. But yeah, Fairbairn and Young Ho Koo, and you throw in Justin Tucker. Those have been the real clutch kickers of our season so far in the AFC. Speaking of that, Ravens and the Bengals had an awesome overtime game. Lamar Jackson had a special play where he fumbled the snap, picked it up. He got away from the big man Hubbard, giving him stiff arm to go down. And then it kind of looked like the catch, the play with Joe Montana and Dwight Clark hooking up.
I think Lamar may have got away with a face mask.
That's okay. It's a quarterback. But that play looks so similar because Jackson's rolling to his right, hitting the sideline, throwing out of bounds, and the same way Montana did. And there's Likely there, and he makes the catch. And
James, if I can interject real quick, that game turned when Evan McPherson pulled that field goal wide right.
I mean, he had that. They were saying, trust the Bengals just to use Burrow and throw for the touchdown. Instead, they went for the 3. And McPherson, he's kind of off and on when it comes to clutch field goal moments, even though they did extend him. But yeah, just Tucker had another opportunity and he made it happen. That was a really, really great game. But it puts the Bengals at 1-5 now, and you kind of feel like, well, maybe if the Steelers kind of bow down, maybe they have a shot. But you're getting to that territory now once you're 1-5, you're like, okay, it's probably not going to be a playoff season for you unless everybody else falls down in front of you. Speaking of falling down, the Raiders, man, no Adams, of course, he doesn't want to be there. Crosby did play, at least he showed up, but a lot of other people didn't show up. Gardner Minshew threw, I think, 1 touchdown but 2 picks. He was later benched for Aiden O'Connell. The running game looked well for a quarter, but that was it. The Bronco defense did well. Patrick Surtain, the second, or PS2, I like calling his name, his nickname. He had a couple of picks. He had one for 99 yards. I mean, Minshew threw it just right to him, basically. And I guess one more thing about Denver, they wore their late 70s, 80s, and early 90s Bronco uniforms. So it was the Elway years, pretty much. So it was great seeing those uniforms, and they certainly showed worth it. The Cardinals, they somehow hold on. The defense did well against the 49ers. They made Purdy, go around and not make him, comfortable in the pocket. Instead, chased him around, and for all the flack Murray gets, he did pretty well. I know him and Harrison Jr. didn't really match up as much, but there were some big plays in this game. And again, the Cardinals really, really did well. They got the 1-point upset win in Santa Clara. That was unbelievable. Giants defeat the Seahawks in Seattle 29-20. I was watching all 3 of these games, and I was shocked because the Giants just dominated both lines, offensively and defensively. They were just tremendous. Daniel Jones got all the protection he needed, and then when he had to get out of there, he got out of dodge and he ran for first downs. He threw very accurately. Remember, they were without Malik Neighbors and Singletary, the running back. So you figured, okay, who are they going to go to? But Jones just did it himself and just threw very accurately. And it was like, hey, okay, that game is worth that extension that he got. But it's the other one somehow. And Seattle, it was just a down game for them. I know they were down 5 defenders, but you can't let someone like that come into your house and play down to them. That was just awful by Seattle, offensively and defensively. That was just a really bad effort. And Packers held on to beat the Rams. I think there was one bad highlight of this game, even though Jordan Love made up for it. But it looked like the Kyler Murray interception in that playoff game at SoFi in 2021, where he tried to avoid the safety by throwing the ball in the air from the end zone, and it turned out to be a pick 6. And Jordan Love did the same thing. It looked really bad, but Love made up for it, despite not having one of the receivers, Romeo Doubs, who was suspended for the game because of her team reasons. I forget what they call it, but
conduct detrimental to the team.
That's what it was. Thank you. And I think they missed him slightly in that game. So credit to the Rams even, showing up. At least they did. Yeah, so that hour and 30-minute rain delay in Pittsburgh.
Oh, man, that weather was insane on Sunday Night Football.
You couldn't play in that, no doubt about that. The threat of that. It was bad for all the East Coast people, but it was okay for, me and whoever else was watching out here. The Cowboys held on. It was a pretty good game, but I know at first
Dallas never beats Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, if memory serves me correct.
They had a walk-off sometime last decade or decade, I think 2 walk-offs the Pittsburgh had with Ben Roethlisberger against Dallas. And we had a walk-off kind of throw here with the Cowboys, with Tolbert catching the last pass from Dak. I know Dak and Lamb couldn't hook up at first, and Lamb had a thing with Dak, but they finally hooked up, and I guess it was fine. But I didn't see Monday Night Football. I was out, but I was out at work, I should say. But the Chiefs held on to win 26-13. Derek Carr has only beaten Pat Mahomes once in his career, and that was in 2020 Week 5.
When he left the game with an oblique injury, like he's playing baseball, apparently.
Oh, I didn't know that. But the Chiefs are 5-0 now. I think the Vikings are the only undefeated team there. So, and Derek Carr did have 2 touchdowns before he left. Kamara couldn't get anything done, it looked like.
Chris
Uh,
Olave wasn't really targeted, apparently, per
no,
reports.
I didn't see that. Mahomes, despite throwing for 331 yards, did not have a touchdown, but he threw for 1 pick. Juju Smith-Schuster had 7 receptions for 130 yards, but no touchdowns. I want to say Travis Kelce left the game, but I think he came back. And Kareem Hunt had his first breakout game back with the Chiefs. He had 27 carries for 102 yards and a touchdown. So the Chiefs go on like they always do, it seems like. I'm trying to remember who Thursday Night Football is, but I know we'll have another.
I believe it's the Niners in Seattle.
That's
in
right.
Seattle.
And just think about it. Both have had letdown games. Both are going to be hungry for that Thursday game. So I'll be
Especially
watching
the
that.
Seahawks block field goal for a touchdown from 60 yards away. And then the Niners had the lead, couldn't really hang on to it. Again, they've been crushed by injuries, and Arizona wanted it more than them. With that, James, some football thoughts from our good man Jack Braun up in Seattle. He first says, Cliff Kingsbury making football fun again in the nation's capital. Wondering if you believe that he gets a head coaching job sometime this offseason. Maybe not right away?
No, not right away. I think you want to prove yourself again. I mean, think of how long it took Lane Kiffin to get a head coaching job in college. You know, he was assisting with, Saban. And then when he was a head coach, he had to make his way up to Ole Miss. So I think it takes time. Once you have a big, highly, touted downfall, you have to climb up, but it's going to take longer.
Yeah, I definitely think that it'll be another year or two, probably. I think if this, wave of momentum keeps going, he'll probably get looked at. With that as well, James, Jack's also asking, this is probably a fairly easy one. Even I could probably answer this question, honestly, and I don't watch the NFL. Who's had a worse fall from grace, gentlemen? Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson? I mean, Deshaun Watson, final answer.
Yeah. It is interesting.
Because I think, James, you have to factor in the off-the-field junk, sadly.
Right,
Russell Wilson doesn't have any of that going on in his life.
But I think Russell Wilson took himself from being a first ballot Hall of Famer to not a Hall of Famer.
Because of him going to Denver, then him going to Pittsburgh, and still trying to say, well, hey, I'm still a veteran. I can still play.
Yeah, no, the last year in Seattle, he wasn't as good. It was a disaster for those 2 years in Denver. And now Justin Fields took the starting job away from him, where Wilson, even though he's, all dressed up, they won't put him on the field. They say he has a hamstring injury, but I don't think they want to even play him.
Fair observation. Jack also says, how about them Niners losing to the Cardinals? The San Francisco looks like a shell of itself. Defense can't get pressure or stop the run. Offense very inconsistent, a la Christian McCaffrey, IR. Jordan Mason had his 15 minutes of fame, and now he's kind of in a way, fading into black.
That, he's the main guy for them now. Don't know about McCaffrey, how long it's going to be, maybe a month or more, but it feels like the Madden curse is on him. And then, the defense is missing Hargrove. He's out for, I think, the whole season. And the secondary gives up big plays. It's gut check time definitely for the Niners, even this early.
And also, James, to finish off Jack's thoughts for right now, he says, Cincy and San Fran seem off this year. But, James, who seems more off this season? Cincinnati with Burrow being healthy, or the Niners post another Super Bowl loss to Kansas City? I got to think it's Kansas. I got to think it's the Niners.
I'm going to say just Cincinnati, just because of all the offseason issues, about
the hold-ins. Yeah, that's fair.
With Higgins, and then not getting a deal done with Chase, even though eventually a deal will get done, but they wanted to do it just like Burrow and just get it done right away like they did last year with Joe. They wanted to do the same with Chase, and now there's awkwardness, and maybe even though they hooked up last, in the game yesterday, that, hey, one little incident and Chase doesn't want to be here. You know how receivers do.
Pretty much. But that is James in our NFL recap segment, the self-proclaimed slowest 5 minutes in football, as opposed to Chris Berman's fastest 3 minutes on
There you go.
ESPN Plus. With that, James, from the gridiron to the hardwood, the NBA preseason kicked off on Thursday in Palm Desert for the LA Lakers and around the league. Again, some of the teams playing overseas. I believe it was Denver playing Milwaukee, I want to say, in Abu Dhabi, I want to say, or there's a couple of games over in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, though. But James, obviously, locally in town, though, again, Clippers were in Honolulu kicking off their camp at the Stan Sheriff Center at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Again, Lakers opened up their camp and their games at the Acrisure Arena in Thousand Palms, California, a la Palm Springs. The whole, hey, Bronny James plays with the Lakers and so on and so forth. James, any early preseason thoughts regarding anything in the NBA right now? I know it's very early right now. We know about the trade that was made between the Wolves and Knicks for Karl Anthony Towns. But, James, even after like a couple days of game action, any thoughts to pass along as we kind of wait for the NBA to get going here and kind of get into full speed ahead?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that the Celtics were playing the Nuggets on Friday in Abu Dhabi.
I knew it was a green team that they were playing.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it really, I think, because I was at work. But it's just funny how that has gone on there, and eventually other sports will go there to play an exhibition game.
Now,
for sure.
UFC already did that during COVID.
Yeah, the Fight Island. Dalton Connect, he's looked really good for the Lakers so far. Yeah, I guess we had to talk about
a little
James.
inconsistent, I think, from game 1 to game 2 from playing the Wolves against playing the Suns on Sunday.
Right, I did see a little bit of that Laker game. It was just weird. I was trying to figure out where the hell they were playing and if it was outdoors. The way the lights looked, it looked outdoors.
That is the new arena that they opened up for the Seattle Kraken's AHL club in Coachella Valley. That's where they were playing those two games at Acrisure Arena.
The lighting made it look like when they played at Indian Wells.
I remember
the
that.
Suns did.
And I remember the LA Sparks played a game at the tennis stadium at what was then Home Depot Center at CSU Dominguez Hills, which is now called Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California.
Yeah, I don't know. The lighting just threw me off where I thought they were playing there. Because I remember those games at the tennis place, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But I guess it's a cool thing, father and son playing, but I really haven't seen a highlight of them together, hooking up and scoring or whatever.
Yeah, Bronny played okay in game 1. Was really, I think he had 3 or 4 block shots in the game. And then game 2, like, he became a turnover machine, sadly. So a little bit up and down to kind of start for Bronny James.
I think he'll be a facilitator, but he won't be a scorer. And then a defender, you don't have to worry about him. I think that he'll make his mark on that. There's a few teams I'm looking forward to, the younger ones. I think I'm looking at
Wolves, Thunder, Denver.
Well, those off the grid. So I'm looking at like Utah, how they put their roster together. I'm looking maybe
who's their head coach now.
Oh my God,
in Utah.
I forgot. Let me look that up.
Because I think the last time I knew that they were doing well was when they had Quinn Snyder as their head coach.
Yeah, now he's next to be fired in Atlanta by
Oh, should I take a drink?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you by Trey Young. Will Hardy. He assumed the role in 22. He's only 36 by the Utah Jazz. Love the owner there, by the way. I forget his
Ryan
name.
Smith.
Yeah, he brought the hockey club and maybe.
And also here, Danny Ainge is their CEO now for the Jazz.
Yeah, he was a consultant, I think, a couple of years, ever since he left the Celtics. And just to be back home, BYU, it's an easy job. But I do want to give credit to Patrick Ewing. He was named the Knicks ambassador.
Yeah, he's now a basketball advisor for the Knicks. That's a really cool thing that the Knicks did that. And I think, though, James, and before you continue, I think that is vastly important for the Knicks to kind of repair damage done to the likes of Patrick Ewing, John Starks. Again, James, let's not forget, though, say what you want about Charles Oakley, how he just totally bombarded and blasted James Dolan. That's a big step forward for that organization, trying to begin to slowly repair the damage that was done maybe by the Dolan ownership group back in the day with those 90s era Knicks.
What's good is that you're seeing less of Dolan in the news and in the spotlight. Like, he's still sitting there by the Knicks bench.
But now he's not a sidebar circus like he's been in the past several years with the Knicks.
No one's getting, ushered out. No one's getting thrown out for saying fire Dolan. Nothing like that. Or sell the team. So, and then they put, I think, more emphasis or more spotlight on their president. I think it's West. I can't remember his name, but they're putting more emphasis on them than Dolan. Running the day-to-day operations. It's literally those guys.
I know his name, and I think he was an agent.
Yeah, I forget something.
Leon Rose?
Yeah, Leon Rose, and then there was West. I forget his name, but both of them are like the the people that actually make the moves, and now you can't blame Dolan. It's like when Phil Jackson came in, and that was a disaster. All that was on him. So all that is on Rose and Mr. West. I'm trying to find his name, but yeah, all that is on them now. It's not on Worldwide. Oh, I forgot his name. But yeah, I'm just so. The only thing I hate, Worldwide West was that guy's name. William Wesley is the man I'm thinking of. He's an advisor for the New York Knicks, along with Leon Rose to be the president. So you have those guys as the faces, and not really Dolan anymore. I think that's what really helped the Knicks. The only thing is, I wanted to see those Nova Knicks play together, and that cat trade screwed it up.
Out of town for the cat trade.
I hope that works out, because hey, I think it showed in the playoffs when Embiid was healthy. He was getting every offensive rebound.
No size down low for the Knicks.
Yeah, and all they had was Mitchell Robertson, but he kept getting hurt. So I think that's why they did that. But Cat cannot be soft. That's going to be a storyline all year long.
Yeah,
is the big guys inside for both of those teams.
James, an interesting development that I caught on CBS Sports today. Memphis Grizzlies #1 overall pick for them, and the Purdue star Zach Edey, big fella himself, given the green light by the Grizzlies head coach, name eludes me, to start shooting the three ball. As much, James, as you know that I hate when families own sports teams and they don't spend their money to make their team better. I know what button to push to fire you up. That's the centers in the NBA shooting the three, maybe minus Nikola Jokic. But James, give us your thoughts. What do you think about the Grizzlies letting Zach Edey fire away from long range?
It's just weird. I was watching the game from 1984. It was the Spurs and Lakers from the old Hemisphere Arena in San Antonio. And it was Artis Gilmore playing center for the Spurs. And, of course, you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the Lakers. And neither one of them shot a three-pointer. And I was happy because it was post-play.
Yeah,
it was like,
this is old-time basketball, baby.
It was post-play. It was, jump hooks and sky hooks and
block shots, dunks.
Nobody was shooting three-pointers back then either. They just left the point guard open. If he made it, but he wasn't shooting a three. The only time they shot a three was at the end of a quarter when they really needed it, or just because, it was halftime.
Probably because they never made the adjustment when they added the three-point line. They were just so used to playing down low.
And fast breaks. But this with Zach Edey, I don't think he's a stretch big, but Taylor Jenkins, the head coach, I think they're just experimenting with this. I know they have Steven Adams.
I hope it's an experiment.
They never did this with Steven Adams, but when Giannis Valanciunas was there, he was actually shooting threes. He was being left alone, and he would always shoot those, straightaway shots or three-pointers. It was never in the corners, of course. It was just based off, pick and rolls, and the big guy would just stay inside on him, and then Valanciunas was just left open. By the way, I hate that Valanciunas is on the Wizards now on that circus show that is Pool
circus
and
music or Benny Hill theme song. What do you want?
both. To explain those people, Kuzma and Poole, and then you have Valanciunas that is really going to hate it there. Anyway, back to Edey. He attempted 2 3-pointers in his 4-year career at Purdue. He banked in 1, and I swear I think I remember it too now. But he's 7'4".
Why is all I have to ask is why.
Yeah. And this was after the open practice. He participated in a shooting contest. And if you go off of that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a thing going forward. They already have so many great 3-pointer shooters.
I mean, they got John to
Luke
lead
Kennard.
the way. Yeah.
You have Desmond Bain, who's come on all by himself, and he's done very, very well. Even though he's doing it at practice, Edey at 3-pointers. Maybe it'll be a surprise tactic, but I want to see his ass down low, getting rebounds, posting up whenever he can. Really taking advantage of his size like he did in college, where it's like, hey,
7'4", you might as well utilize it. I didn't see Yao Ming shooting threes when he was healthy.
He did when he first started with the Rockets. I do remember him doing that. I'm thinking to myself, damn, that's the first time I ever seen a big man shoot a 3, and it wasn't as consistent. It just started that way because he was really weak inside at first. Remember when he first came over?
A 3 in an All-Star game and they lost their crap on the broadcast? I feel like he did.
I can't, but I know he made 1 out of 4 in his NBA career, and it was a bank shot at the end of the first half against Miami in 94 or 93 because they always showed on inside.
Goal down.
Yeah. They always showed on inside whenever they talk about threes. It's like, yeah, I'm 1 for 4. That was my only one right there.
I got 4 rings, Chuck. What about you?
Yeah. That was your only one? Well, I got 4 rings because of it, though. So I remember Shaq in that way. And there's old footage back in the day. Wilt Chamberlain's like at Laker practice, and he's just throwing hook shots, and he's making threes. But again, that was for practice. Kareem, I think,
or Jerry West in the finals against the Knicks at the Forum from 3-quarter court, and all he did was tie the damn game.
Count for 2 points.
There ain't no damn 3-point line back then.
That was game 5 of that 1970 finals.
I think they lost that game too, and I think the Knicks won the series.
Yeah, game 6 the Lakers took in the Willis Reed game 7. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I think, only made 1 3 in the corner at old Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Phoenix. I think he only made 1. But yeah, I remember Yao. They had him out there, and then after a while, they said, okay, get him back in there.
And we got McGrady who can hit a 3. Get back down there and clean up the mess, my man.
Yeah. So I've seen it done before, and now you've seen it where I've seen Rudy Gobert shoot.
Nikola Jokic kind of away.
No, I don't mind that, but Rudy Gobert shooting threes?
No.
That pissed me off. The time Andrew Bynum did and got benched by Mike Brown, I'll always remember that.
Yes.
DeAndre Jordan, I think, beat the shot clock in Dallas one time shooting a 3, and I think that was his only 3 make.
Blake Griffin, was he a 3-point shooter? Was he more of a guy? Yeah.
Later on, he started to when he couldn't jump as much. In Detroit, he kind of took the air out of his game and developed a 3-point shot. I know Patrick
Regardless,
Ewing
if you're
did.
a big man, stay in the paint, please.
Yeah, Patrick Ewing had
you,
to.
Anthony Davis.
You see, Davis is the one I think that really, I don't think started the revolution, but he made it something, especially in New Orleans. He won a game against, I think, the Warriors one time like that. It was against the Thunder. But like I was going to say, Patrick Ewing back in the day did it only for a necessity to beat the shot clock or whatever. It wasn't like, pick and roll.
I understand that part, but if it's like a regular offensive set and you just happen to, and you just put it up, like, no.
Yeah, I think it's just for fun right now. It's not going to happen.
I don't think there's a whole lot to it, but it'd be interesting though, like, garbage time, let Edey shoot a 3. With that in mind, some more comments here from Jack, who says that McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs, reportedly. Sadly, but sounds like torn Achilles ticking time bomb.
Oh, Callan, can I mention
Yes.
about this? I remembered when the Panthers traded him to the Niners, and remember he was coming off of
Surgery already.
I think it. I think it was
ACL,
torn ACL.
MCL,
Yeah,
some like near career-ending injury.
and remember the Panthers didn't really get much back for him, and
Yep.
the 49ers extended him. But I think in the back of everybody's head, you kind of were reminded of his
Wait a
injury
minute, what are we
history.
doing here? Yeah.
You're like, it could happen. It could spawn up at any time. You love having him, but there's days where he won't be here or he won't be available, and it's like all this, like you mentioned, with the season going on and the pressure after losing the Super Bowl, all this is happening at one time for the Niners.
And kind of to your point about like Jamar Chase holding out, Brandon Ayuk held out for at one point in time, hold out, hold in, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of knew though that McCaffrey's health was a question. And that's why, again, as everyone knows, I don't like the NFL, but I report on it because I know there's an audience out there I need to talk to about the NFL, whether I know crap about it or not. But I know, James, when I saw that extension news come out, I'm like, this will either be the greatest thing ever or this is going to be the worst thing ever. And right now it's leaning that way towards worst thing ever.
They had to win last year's Super Bowl. Like, their window is really, really closing. Like, this is a year where, hey, Detroit's right here. They're right. They were a one half away from being you last year. They were right there. And then Brandon Ayuk, I have to mention, did have a stellar first half yesterday and actually put up some numbers. And it was the first time that he did that this year that, I was with the 49er fan and, she was yelling so much at him, like, finally, he's doing this, he's doing that. It was just a great environment.
Yeah. With that, James, some NBA talk from Jack. He starts with an obvious question. Thoughts on Shams heading to ESPN? Let me, James, let me just set this out for a second. Jack, I know that you're just asking in general. Let me just tell you this real quick. Your boy right here, whose podcast has raked in over 4,000 views on C2C in 33 shows, sat here on my last episode on September 19th and said that Shams would become the number one targeted free agent for anyone out there and that he'd be hired to become the top guy. So I already said this. So whatever you're hearing from outside sources of this network, don't buy it. Just simple as that. But James, your thoughts about Shams going to ESPN?
This was a long time coming for him. He's always been
and not really a surprise. It was not a, oh my goodness, wow, ESPN flexing muscles. Again, I said this was going to happen on September 19th. Give me a break.
Yeah, he's always been a good one.
Sorry, James. This just came back to me, Jack and James. I literally mentioned Shams was Woj's protege, like being groomed at the pet salon to become the next insider for ESPN. Don't give me Jeff Passan or Adam Schefter. It was always going to be Shams. So just again, Jack, whatever you heard from outside our network bubble, don't buy it. James, please continue.
Yeah, I was going to mention with Shams, like he was really underrated. Like, he would go on the McAfee show, and I would learn so much from him just because I wasn't following the NBA as much.
But even then, you knew something was up if he's making appearances already on ESPN while he's still not signed by the network.
That's the big thing. And they were talking about Passan going to the NBA. That was like his first love. But baseball would be so much uncooler without Passan. I mean, he's awesome. When he goes on...
Really, who would have been playing B? Buster Olney?
No. You always need someone younger. I would have had Sarah... who was her name again?
Yes.
I would have had her replace
Keep
her.
Keep up the fight, Sarah. We're rooting for you. Go and kick ALS's you-know-what, please.
Yeah. I would have had someone like that take over, but I'm just happy Passan stayed with the MLB. He's very cool. I really enjoy his things. His interviews with Patrick or McAfee is really great. But yeah, Shams, I'm happy for him. I was kind of taken away by that Woj news going to the Bonnies, but I think that was a dream job for him, and he's done the year-round work of being an NBA insider. And I think after a while, you kind of get, like, hey, I've done this for long enough. I've been at the top for a long time. It's time
Yeah,
to give it to somebody else.
Yeah, and James, I talked about that on that press row episode. Again, you can go back and check out my commentary on Shams from the September 19th episode that put me over 4,000 views here on C2C with press row. But I said, though, that there was a very eye-opening article that I read from awfulannouncing.com that talked about the life that Woj, Shams, Jeff Passan, Adam Schefter, the late, great Chris Mortensen lived. It's hard to break away from work, and I mentioned about the fact that Jeff Passan broke away from being, that Jeff Passan was reporting in front of the hotel when the owners locked out the players in baseball in 2022 and had to send a tweet out during his interview. Adam Schefter interrupted dinner with his wife on date night because of Damar Hamlin going into cardiac arrest to get on ESPN. Like, that life is not luxurious. It may look, awesome as the final product. Like I said, Shams talked about his screen time and that he can't really go on vacation. And James, I kind of in a way compared it to myself. Again, I don't like doing a lot of this. But again, when you're working in sports, though, and in my case, when you're in college athletics one day, then you're in minor league hockey one day, then you're in pro lacrosse one day, pro soccer one day, pro baseball one day, traveling out of town to go to Orange County to work an Angels game, for example, or go to the pond to work a Gulls game, for example, in a preseason game in Anaheim. Like that, there's a lot that goes on here, and it's not all what it usually is cooped up to be. And I hope that people realize that with Woj retiring and moving on to his alma mater at St. Bonaventure University. Last comment here for the NBA block here. James from Jackie says that Phoenix looks like they're going to be playing a Mike D'Antoni run and gun offense with lots of speed, fast breaks, and threes, but no defense.
I think they were doing that before, but it
sure
wasn't as fast. It wasn't as fast. It was more slowed down. Remember, they tried to do where Booker was the kind of de facto point guard, but that didn't really work out. They didn't get that point guard that they needed. They added Bill, which slowed down things even more. So you had like 3 ISO players in a way. I just feel like, and we mentioned them, last week, of if they're ever going to get to that level, or if they're going to
do it now again, because Durant's not getting any younger, Beal's 35. Not getting any younger. You got to worry about the Achilles with Durant, the back with Beal. Is Booker's loyalty now kind of on the line now with how they have been playing? And I think though, James, does Mike Budenholzer still have that like Midas touch after what happened in 2021 with the Bucks winning it all?
I don't think so.
Obviously, not if he got fired.
It's all the young teams now. I feel like they're trying to make it work, but I feel like it won't.
But again, folks, NBA preseason continuing on here as we roll on. With that, James, I might have lied to you when we came to the NHL segment. I wanted to give out 5 bold predictions for the upcoming season starting on Tuesday. How about I just give you 32, one for every single team for the longest 10 minutes in program history when it comes to the NHL. Again, folks, the NHL season did kick off this weekend in Prague between the Devils and Sabres. New Jersey won both games at the O2 in Prague. Now the regular stateside season begins on Tuesday. 3 games will kick off the schedule, including St. Louis and the Kraken at 1:30 Pacific time. We'll also have one East Coast game involving the Bruins, and then Chicago takes on the newly formed Utah Hockey Club to round out the day. But with that, James, I sat around today, kind of read a couple of things from ESPN sources, who, again, they've been just, really good since they have gotten the NHL back on their plate. So I told James I wanted to give 5. I'll give you 1 for every team. So 32 thoughts with your boy, Callan and McClurg, here for the NHL segment. James, we'll go by division. We'll start out here in our neck of the woods. I'll start with Anaheim. The Ducks will not trade Trevor Zegras, John Gibson, or Cam Fowler. Notably, Gibson and Fowler because of salary cap reasons. Fowler's owed about $6.5 million, as is John Gibson. Sadly, John Gibson had suffered a appendectomy at the end of training camp. He's out for about 1 to 4 weeks. I also don't quite get the logic of trading a player like Trevor Zegras, who's 20, fairly young player. I know he's kind of flashy. He's had the injury problems, but I think just kind of dangling his name out there just doesn't really make sense. So I'm going to say no trade of Zegras, no trade of Gibson, no trade of Fowler, mainly because for Gibson and Fowler, salary cap reasons, $6.5 million for both those players. Calgary Flames, they will be tanking for the number 1 overall pick this season. Them trading away Jacob Markstrom, them losing a lot of key cogs with their offense and their flow. And I think really, though, just kind of in a way, trading away Jacob Markstrom is a really telling sign of ownership trying to scale things back, reduce the payroll, and try to get that number 1 pick in 2024 or 2025, 2026. Edmonton, they will repeat as Western Conference champions, but will lose again in the Cup final. Again, I think, though, that with what they have now, and I think this more importantly, the re-signing of Leon Draisaitl, then with McDavid eventually getting extended, locks up their core 3 forwards for the rest of their careers. I don't see McDavid going anywhere out of Edmonton. Draisaitl saying, nope, I'm running it back. My only concern, though, is that after their top defensive pairing, little bit shaky right now. And also, goaltending is also a little bit of a concern with Stuart Skinner. Playing great in spurts, bad game here, good game here, bad game here, bad game here. But I do like Edmonton to repeat as a conference champs, where they, again, will lose in the final. L.A., I like this kid a lot. Quentin Byfield breaks 70 points this season. Had a great breakout season last year. The Kings moving Pierre-Luc Dubois' contract off the books, moving him to Washington for a goaltender and Darcy Kemper. Byfield gets more playing time if he's healthy. I think he will get to 70 points this season. The Sharks. Macklin Celebrini will win the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. It's not a foregone conclusion about the number 1 pick winning it usually, but I think, though, with a young team like with what San Jose is building, adding in veterans like Tyler Toffoli to go alongside Mac, go alongside Will Smith, go alongside a lot of these other young kids up there, I do think Celebrini will win the Calder, but it's going to be a very close vote, and I don't see the Sharks getting out of the bottom third of the NHL standings. They'll probably be 31st or 32nd this season. Seattle, Jack might like this one. Shane Wright does not get sent back to Coachella Valley. I believe with Dan Blyesma, his former coach in Coachella Valley with the Firebirds at the American Hockey League level, being promoted to the NHL club after David Hackstall was fired, this is his breakout campaign. They also just re-signed and re-up Matty Beniers to a long-term extension. Shane Wright, I think, getting some weight on him over the past couple of seasons, getting more playing time down in the American League. He's not going back down anytime soon. He's going to be a force on that roster in Seattle. Vancouver, great season last year. They need a bounce back year from Elias Pettersson. But I think with them getting Jake DeBrusk, his longtime defensive partner in Boston, will help get himself back on track. Again, 89 points would be a very good spot for him. And for Vegas, they'll get past round 1 this season. I do have questions, though, regarding the loss of Jonathan Marchessault and the loss of Riley Smith, though, too, as well, especially with Marchessault airing out a lot of dirty laundry about the Knights front office. Hey, they didn't give me a contract. He went and signed in Nashville with Steven Stamkos, who left Tampa Bay to go to the Predators. Central Division, Chicago. Blackhawks trade away Seth Jones, one of their last remaining key veterans outside of Nick Foligno. I think the Blackhawks are going to try to get younger again defensively. Again, they are nowhere near what they were in the 2010s. I like, though, about Bedard having some reinforcements. Again, Foligno being, that big, tough guy to kind of keep him safe on the ice. But I don't see Seth Jones staying around in Chicago. Colorado. Gabriel Landeskog will win the Bill Masterton Trophy for perseverance. He has missed 2 full seasons rehabbing a very insane knee injury over the past couple seasons. He has not played, I believe, since the postseason in 2022. That is an award given out to the player who comes back, like comeback player of the year, named in honor of Bill Masterton, the only player that I know of that was killed during a game back in the day. But Gabriel for Masterton Trophy. The Dallas Stars. do not make the Western Conference Final. This has been a team, James, we talked about last week. They've had a lot of great veterans, Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski before he retired, a lot of great young players like Maverick Bourque, who's going to be up there probably all season, a very somewhat, though, yo-yo up and down goalie in Jake Ottinger, but I don't think that they can captivate the magic of getting to the conference final the past couple of years. Dallas gets bumped out round 1, round 2. The Wild recently re-signed goalie Jesper Wallstedt wins the starting job over the current goalie in Philip Gustav. I think that they're trying to get younger as well. They've had that misfortune of losing every time in the first round, but look for a new goaltender to start in Minnesota. Predators, they swung early during the course of the offseason, but it won't win them a cup because, as James, we talk about a lot, I talk about a lot, super teams don't always work out in the first year, maybe two. Brady and the Bucks was an exception to the rule in 2020 because it's Tom Flippin' Brady. Even I know that as a fan, as a person who doesn't like professional American football. Steven Stamkos, though, and Jonathan Marchessault, two nice ads to go along with what they already have in place. I'm a little worried still about UC Saros, though he did re-up that contract in goal. But again, Barry Trotz swings for the fences. I like it, but I don't think it translates to a cup final berth or a victory in the cup final yet after this first season. St. Louis, they began a brand new trend. Offer sheets become a new means of contract negotiations in the NHL after they pried away two key cogs of Edmonton's third and fourth line during the offseason, and the Oilers, James, were stuck in salary cap purgatory, could not match the offer. It doesn't happen very often in the NHL, but the Blues might have started a brand new trend coming up as time goes on. In the newly formed Utah Hockey Club, the name's going to be the Yeti. Let's just kind of go with that. I really think so. I think it's kind of already been spilt out by Bill Armstrong and by newly named captain Clayton Keller over the course of the last couple of months. We'll go down to the Eastern Conference real quick. Carolina, the Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes will miss the postseason due to too much roster turmoil. They lost 4 to 5 key players on their roster, and I also have questions when it comes to goaltending in the postseason. Freddie Anderson has been a great guy, great player, but he's been having so many, in a way, just like ill-timed injuries, sadly. And again, I know you can't prep for them, but again, blood clotting has been a very big thing, sadly, for Freddie in his career. Not having a reliable goalie come the postseason is always damaging for any team out there. So I will go with that the Canes missed the postseason due to the roster turnover. The Columbus Blue Jackets, despite, again, the tragic news of the Johnny Gaudreau passing, Adam Fantilli, their number 3 overall pick in last year's draft, has his breakout campaign. Adam missed some time with the skate cut laceration in his calf last year. Sadly, all 3 number 1 picks last season, knock on wood, it doesn't happen this year, but all 3 number 1 picks last season missed time due to injury. Fantilli comes back, has a bigger role again because of what happened, sadly, with Johnny Gaudreau's passing. Columbus will make some strides, but I think Fantilli has a great breakout season. New Jersey. Jacob Markstrom is your Vezina Trophy winner for the top goaltender in the NHL. I know about what the Rangers have with Igor Shesterkin, what Tampa has with Andrei Vasilevsky, and what other teams have. But Markstrom leaving Calgary, I'm a big change of scenery guy, James. I always say, hey, you move a guy out of one place to a new one. Maybe it's good that he gets out of that old market and begins to play better. Markstrom wins the Vezina as the top goaltender. Islanders. Matthew Barzal sets a brand new personal scoring mark with over 80 points this season, or at least like between 80 and 85 points. They need him to be their main guy with the Islanders this season. And they've had a very good run recently, though, as time has gone on, but they just don't have enough behind him when it comes to scoring options. So he will probably have to carry the load. I'm expecting him to have at least an 80-plus point season. The Rangers are my Eastern Conference champions, and they are your Stanley Cup champions. I think after last season's exit, President's Trophy curse comes to the forefront again. Too much firepower, Too many great players. Again, I think Adam Fox will be a Norris Trophy winning defenseman once more. Igor Shesterkin in goal. Mika Zibanejad, all the players, all the firepower. It feels like it's finally the Rangers' time with what they have in place to finally win it all for the first time since 1994. The Flyers, if this team is healthy, they make the postseason, in my opinion. I think that John Tortorella did a great job turning around that club last season, but so many injuries, though, that kind of piled up like corkwood over the course of a season. They had some off-the-ice problems with their former goalie, Carter Hart, who was involved in a sexual assault case involving him and some old teammates when they were teenagers back with Team Canada. But if they're healthy, Flyers make the postseason. The Penguins will finish in the top 10 in power play scoring. That's been their knack for a long time, has been power play efficiency. And last year was a dismal year for the Pens, up a man or up two men. Could not really find ways to crack the top 10. They'll be back in there this season. I know that they're getting older with Letang and Crosby and Malkin, but they are starting to kind of, in a way, inject some young life in this team. They will be a top 10 power play unit come this season. Here's the boldest of the bold. Capitals. The Great Eight, Alexander Ovechkin, will score 43 goals and surpass Wayne Gretzky's all-time scoring record of 894 goals. I know it was a very much un-Ovi-like season of like only 8, 9, 10 goals by January. Then he really finally caught fire as the year went on, though. I don't expect another season of him not scoring as often as he does. And also, if there's power plays for the Caps, you know damn well it's going to be 8 one-time clapper from the left faceoff dot into the back of the net. So I believe that Ovi passes Gretzky this season. Last division is the Atlantic. The Bruins will fire Jim Montgomery after this season if the Bruins don't win it all this season. There is too much talent between Brad Marchand and David Pasternak, and I know that they had a very messy situation with Jeremy Swayman, their goalie. They lost Linus Ullmark to Ottawa. But if the Bruins are not getting out of round one, and if they're not winning at all, I expect there to be changes by Cam Neely. I think it's just beyond unacceptable that a team like Boston, who's had tremendous regular seasons and all that talent they've had, cannot get out of their own way in round one or round two or get to the Cup final. So I think that Jim Montgomery's on the hot seat entering the season in Boston. This one's not looking good after 2 games, but it's still, they got 80 more games to go. The Buffalo Sabres end the NHL's longest active playoff drought, dating back to, I believe, 2011, I think. Lindy Ruff is back for, I think, a 3rd tour of duty as the Sabres head coach. Buffalo knows what they're getting with Lindy Ruff coaching. They got to get these young kids going, though. And I think that they have a lot of great talent there. I like Owen Power, but after 2 games against the Devils in Prague, not the most ideal start. But hey, you got 80 more games to go. But I think Lindy Ruff breaks that long drought in Buffalo. Red Wings. The Red Wings will be taking a step back because their goaltending is a major red flag. Cam Talbot is not what he once was at one point with Edmonton, with Los Angeles, with other teams in the past couple of seasons. I love them re-upping Mo Seider, though, for the 8-year extension. There's a lot of, again, infusing young talent for a team, James, as you probably know very well, was always a veteran, older age team back in their run. But I think goaltending becomes their main component of their downfall this season. Panthers have a slight Cup hangover, an early exit because they lost 2 key cogs of their defensive pairings, Brandon Montour and journeyman Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Montour signed a huge deal in Seattle. Ekman-Larsson went elsewhere as well. I do expect some Cup hangover. Sadly as well, though, the home opener might be a little bit tampered right now because of the oncoming hurricane that is supposed to be making landfall on Wednesday or by Wednesday down in Florida. But I do think some Cup hangover, maybe an early exit. Again, it's just tough to repeat in sports, though, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. The Montreal Canadiens. Lane Hudson will finish as a top 3 vote getter for the Calder Trophy. I go Celebrini, Cutter Gauthier with Anaheim, and then Lane Hudson in Montreal. Saw him play a bit during the preseason in the rookie tournament. Promising future if he made the roster for Montreal. Top 3 for sure. I think he'll be a top 3 in the Calder voting for Rookie of the Year. Senators. They swung and missed, in my opinion, on Linus Olmark, getting him from Boston. He's one and done out of there. I think the Senators have a lot of moving parts. Great, solid group of kids. Shane Pinto, Tim Stützle, a veteran like Tomas Shabbat. But goaltending has been their problem. I don't think Olmark wants to stay in a small market like Ottawa. He's going to be wanting big money to go elsewhere once this year is over. I like the move made, but not sure it's going to really, sadly, pan out. The Lightning, to fill the void of Steven Stamkos leaving after 16 years to go to Nashville, the Lightning will get 40 goals out of journeyman forward Jake Gensel, who I think is going to be a key cog to fill that void. Now I think everybody has to raise their game 10, 15% to fill that void of Steven Stamkos leaving for Nashville. I'm looking now at Kucherov to be more productive, Victor Hedman to be more and more involved, Braden Point, and now I think Gensel going there fills that void on the power play unit, top overall unit, or the top unit, I should say. 40 goals for him would be crucial. And finally, for the Maple Leafs, I really wrestle with this one. The Maple Leafs blow up the roster if they do not get out of round one or win the championship. I think there is just so much pressure, James, with how this group has been assembled. Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, William Nylander. Toronto, I think, James, is a lot like the Yankees, the Cowboys, and in the American sports mainly. If you're not winning at all, we don't care. Fire the coach all you want. Blow up the roster. And I really feel like, James, if this Toronto team again fails to meet up with expectations, I don't see how you keep these guys around. And, that may be ludicrous, but time and time again, the Leafs have fallen off the tree every single postseason. I mean, they had that long spell of not getting out of round one. They finally did. They got knocked down in round two. So I think it's about the team chemistry, the team roster construction. Believe me, they have a lot of great goal scorers, but it's not saying a lot, though, when you don't have much to back your offensive production, when you keep getting, ousted round one, round two, because, teams eventually learn the film about, well, we're going to put so-and-so on Tavares, so-and-so on Matthews, so-and-so on Nylander. Like, it's easier, I think, as time goes on. But I do think, James, if the Leafs do not get anywhere this season, I expect that roster to be blown up with dynamite by Wile E. Coyote. Even with Craig, with the new head coach and Craig Boubre being there, again, you can change the coach all you want, but I think it solely lies, though, at the feet of the roster. And I think that's where I would say why I feel so strongly about is that every year, and again, James, this might not be a fair comparison. The Toronto Maple Leaf fan base is just like the Dallas Cowboys. This is our year. How about them Leafs? Well, where's the Stanley Cup? You haven't won it since 1967. But I think, James, regardless, that is the slowest 10 minutes in sports podcasting history for 32 bowl predictions. James, anything you'd like to pass along or any thoughts?
I do like the Rangers, getting out of the East and winning it all. I mean, that's a fan base, hungry for a championship. It's been over 30 years now, and they were so close last year, but it had that exit out. Wasn't it by the Hurricanes?
Florida conference final.
I'm sorry, yeah, Florida. It was by Florida. Get it? I get so confused by the Panthers. But yeah, I felt like last year was their year, and Florida
and James,
came in and took it.
You and I both said the same thing. Like, if it wasn't Edmonton's time to win it all, with
it was New York.
It was New York's time.
Yep. And maybe their window is closing a bit. Their players are getting older a little bit, more and more. And another go to the West. I'm really interested to see how Utah responds. We know how Vegas started out well, and they haven't stopped ever since. Seattle had a bad, expansion year, and that was bound to happen.
And the Kraken basically told the fans, if you're expecting success like Vegas for year one, don't count on it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking the same thing happens with Utah, where it's like, hey, we're building something, don't expect to win, like you mentioned. But I just want to see the fan reaction, the crowd reaction. I already love what they did with the concessions to those
Yes.
things last week we mentioned. I do love that. The fact that they're playing at the Delta Center is cool too. But with Vegas, I remember with Marc-Andre Fleury, the way that he left Vegas was
Oh
on
yeah,
bad
that was
terms.
horrible. That was a PR nightmare for everyone involved.
Yeah, and then now you said there's a couple players, or there was one player that was
Yeah,
outing.
so Jonathan Marchessault left for Nashville and kind of in a way said it was not as bad as Fleury leaving, but pretty dang close of like airing out dirty laundry about, well, then, this happened, this didn't happen, and that's why I left to go somewhere else.
Wow, it kind of reminds me of Sean Avery or
Yes,
what's his name, Jeremy Roenick.
Jeremy Roenick.
Whenever both of those guys would speak out, it would always be something with gossip, and it was always entertaining.
Yeah,
But
you
it
had
would,
Sean Avery heckling Marty Brodeur during the postseason or the regular season. And then Jeremy Roenick always spoke his mind with Philadelphia, the Coyotes, you name it.
it was always entertaining, but you knew it would ruffle a bunch of feathers.
Oh,
And
yeah, and especially when it was New York and New Jersey at that time when they both were kind of out, at the top of their top of their game back when Avery played for New York and Marty Brodeur was still with the Devils.
and then was the coach for Philadelphia,
John
Tortorella?
Tortorella.
Yeah, I'm always rooting for him, of course, because he has the great sound bites. But I think that'd be a great thing if they made the postseason in Philly. It feels like that's the only team in Philadelphia that hasn't really made strides. Every other team seems to be winning there except the Flyers, and
Yeah,
I
and
think that'd be a
even
cool
their
thing.
Major League Soccer team got to the league final 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
I think that'd be a cool thing. Even their arena football team back in the day won a bunch.
Yeah,
But
their indoor lacrosse team won a lot at one point in time too back in the day.
yeah, so that'd be great strides. That's a hockey town. That really, and then for Detroit, it's just funny. I was talking to somebody who's a big Detroit sports fan, and they seemed high on the Red Wings, but you mentioned, hey, they're going to have a down year. They're going to eventually go to the drawing board again, it seems like. And
mainly just with goaltending. Cam Talbot, journeyman, Calgary, Edmonton, Los Angeles, kind of been around the bush or been around the block a time or two. Again, them re-upping Mo Sider, they're very young, dynamic forward and kind of can play forward and defense. It was a great step forward, though. Again, they made a lot of strides recently, but they just haven't really cracked really scratched the surface just yet. But they're getting fairly close, I think, in Detroit.
And you don't think they can outscore the opponents enough that goaltending wouldn't be an issue?
Yeah, especially in the Eastern Conference. Again, you got Boston, who's got Pasternak and
They're tough.
Brad Marchand. The big bad Bruins are back. Just even looking through their division. Florida, Cup champs. Tampa Bay, again, like I said, I'm looking at 40 goals from Jake Gensel. Toronto has their core, as I already alluded to. Then in the conference alone, Carolina still is competitive. Rangers are always tough to beat. Pittsburgh, I said, will be a top 10 power play unit. You obviously have Ovechkin in Washington trying to go for the record. Like every team in the East has something that can, hinder someone else in the conference standings as the season starts and as we prolong over the course of the winter and into the spring.
Now, Boston hasn't won since 2011, right?
Yes.
So it kind of feels like that way. You were talking about how Toronto and their fans feel like. It kind of feels that way with Boston. Little by little, pieces of their big players have left or
Jake
retired.
Vancouver, for example.
Little by little.
They dealt away one of their goaltenders to Ottawa, as I mentioned. And again, I said that he won't last beyond the year in Ottawa because, the budget may not be there for the Senators to re-up them.
And I think that was the thing I was listening to on Hacksaw a while back when the free agency, I think, was going on for NHL.
At day one, it was like record-shattering number of deals were made by everybody, mainly by Nashville. As I said, they signed Steven Stamkos and then lured in Jonathan Marchessault from Vegas.
What was it, Ottawa or Calgary that was being real cheap, and
Calgary.
they were just pissing off their fan base. The arena isn't good.
Yeah, and Calgary literally dealt Jacob Markstrom to the Devils for draft picks. That's why I wrote in my bold prediction that this is a tank for the number 1 pick for the
Okay.
Flames.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much from the Ducks. They're just continuing to be young. Who did they lose again last week? I was trying to remember the injury.
They lost John Gibson, their goalie, to appendectomy surgery. So he'll be out. I believe the release said he's
via
out about
trade.
1. Yeah, I think he's out 1 to 4 weeks, I think.
I'm sorry, it was a trade a couple of weeks ago. It was one of their main players. I can't remember who it was, though.
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
Fowler? No.
Well, he's in the trade rumor mill, but my prediction is that the 3 guys that are on their trade block won't be moved, and mainly Gibson and Fowler, in my opinion, won't be moved because of salary reasons.
Yeah, they're really going young with all that orange in Anaheim. LA will probably make the playoffs, losing the first round, I'm guessing.
Might be that group's last go around, especially for Kopitar and a injured Doughty.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna try to make it to some games. I know I say that every year, but damn it, I'm gonna try to.
Yeah, and I think Celebrini wins the Calder for Rookie of the Year. I think it'll be Celebrini, Cutter Gauthier, who the Ducks got from Philadelphia for Jamie Drysdale, who there was a lot of bad blood between him in a way with the Flyers organization when he wouldn't sign his ELC. He went and played with Team USA, led them to the World Junior Tournament Championship, and then said, "I'm not going to sign with Philadelphia." And they shipped him out of town to Anaheim for Jamie Drysdale. But I don't think that you can personally, just from my own opinion, again, not reflecting those of the employer, is I know that Trevor Zegras, maybe hasn't gotten there yet, but I think with time coming off the injury he had last season, and I just don't see though how Gibson or Fowler get moved because I don't think any team's taking on that salary of $6.5–7 million for either of those 2 players at this stage. Again, that obviously could change. That's my bold prediction that Anaheim doesn't move those 3 players whatsoever for the season, or even until the deadline, maybe.
Maybe I could do this with the NBA when that comes up, but I got to do my research.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these are fair. Just kind of quickly running down again. Ducks don't trade their 3 main trade chips right now: Trevor Zegras, John Gibson, Cam Fowler. Calgary going for the number 1 pick. The Oilers will repeat as conference champs, but lose to the Rangers, who win the conference title in the East. Quentin Byfield has a 70-point season for the Kings. Macklin Celebrini wins the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. Shane Wright will stay with Seattle all year and won't be sent back to the minors. Elias Peterson has a bounce back year with his old line mate, Jake DeBrusk, in Vancouver from Boston. Vegas will get out of round 1. Seth Jones gets dealt by the Blackhawks. Gabe Landeskog will win the Masterton Trophy for perseverance and play in a comeback player of the year. The Stars won't make the conference final for the first time in quite a while. The recently re-signed Wild goalie will win the starting job over the current employed starting goalie. Predators big off season, but don't reach but does not translate to a Cup final victory. The Blues started a whole new tactic with offer sheets with how they pried away the 2 studs from Edmonton. Utah's going to be called the Yeti, named 2025-2026. Canes don't make the playoffs because of roster turnover. Adam Fantilli in Columbus has a breakout season. Jacob Markstrom wins the Vezina Trophy for the top goalie in the league. Islanders have a new scoring record from Matt Barzal. Rangers are the conference champs in the East and win it all this season. If the Flyers are healthy, they will make the postseason. Pittsburgh becomes a top 10 power play unit again. Biggest one, I think, is Ovechkin passing Gretzky, needing 42 goals to, I believe, tie the record. Jim Montgomery might be coaching his final season in Boston if they don't make it to the final. The Sabres will break the longest inactive or longest active playoff drought in the NHL with Lindy Ruff as their head coach. The Red Wings take a step back with goaltending. Panthers Cup hangover, losing both Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Brandon Montour, 2 really big defensemen on their D pairings. Could be a huge thing. Lane Hudson will be a top 3 Calder finalist behind Gauthier and also behind Celebrini. Senators swung and missed by getting Olmark in that trade. He won't be there. Won't be there after the season. Jake Gensel will score 40 goals in Tampa, and then the Leafs blow up the roster if they do not do well in this postseason. So those are my 32 thoughts on the NHL bold prediction radar for the season. With that, James, in mind, well, kind of in a way, my man kind of skimmed through what happened in the circus that was, my man, college football on Saturday. You get upset, I get upset, you're upset. Hell, everybody's upset in this week of college football. My goodness, man.
I was trying to find out more information about it, but it was literally those 5 upsets, the top 11 teams going down. It was the big one, I guess, was Vanderbilt over Alabama, 40-35. There was how many? It was like 3 weeks ago. Saban went on McAfee and mentioned, well, we didn't get up, or the fans didn't really show up for Vanderbilt. It's not a stadium you're worried about playing against on the road. A lot of Bama fans come, and they did. But Vanderbilt, I learned today, they've really used the transfer portal and the NIL stuff very well. That's why they've done a little better this year than normal. Well, a lot better than normal, I think, than years before. They were always someone you just stepped on. Well, now you have to kind of go around and maybe have to wait a while. So Bama, being number 1 for 1 week, lost that. They went all the way down to 7, I believe. Number 4, Tennessee lost to Arkansas 19-14. That was a shocker, I think, too. But it's a thing where you don't really trust Tennessee. They're not back all the way just yet. Same thing with Missouri. You don't trust them. They got blown out by 31 over Texas A&M. And then the rematch of the championship last year in Seattle, Washington defeated number 10 Michigan. I think Michigan went all the way down to 24. Excuse me, with that loss. And then this one hurt. I didn't see any of it. But Minnesota takes out USC by a touchdown. And USC was 11, and now they're unranked. And I think that's where they should be.
And didn't you call it, James, on Sportsman when we looked over the first AP top 25 that you said that they'll play great for a few weeks and they're going to lose and they're going to be out of a top 25?
It's an ongoing thing. Like, it doesn't matter who's there at quarterback. It doesn't matter who the coach is. They've lost a lot of recruits, and they haven't made up for it to be at that standard where they want to be. And it just shows every damn year. I mean, if they were able to upset Michigan a couple of weeks ago, that would have been a stepping stone. But eventually I would know, hey, they're going to lay an egg. And they did in Minnesota. And I was just thinking to myself the other day, like 3 or 4 hours ago, what if Caleb Williams stayed another year? He would have gotten used to playing in all those Midwestern schools. And then, go to Chicago or wherever and play in that Midwestern weather. So that would have been interesting to note. But as I see here, there's 6 out of the 10. 5 out of the 10 are undefeated. You have Miami, and that was a real shootout game as well at Berkeley. You have to give Cal credit for, first being Florida State. I mean, almost everybody has, but, I know they went to Auburn and beat them. So Cal unexpectedly is playing really, really well this year. But they took Miami to the brink, and Miami held on. You have Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State, all the top 4 at 5-0. By the way,
solid 4 right there.
Yeah, that's all you need. Penn State comes to the Coliseum on Saturday at 12:30. I expect a blowout and a lot of blue at that game.
Hello.
Was that their? I don't know if that's their
Penn
thing.
State.
But you hear that. So yeah, I saw that Michigan, and I knew, like, maybe after the first game, I forget who they were playing on the first Saturday. Oh, they were playing Texas, and they eventually got blown out. I thought to myself, I don't think Michigan is going to finish ranked, and they're right on the brink at 24 of getting out of there. I'm happy for SMU. They're 5-1. I think they made a big jump to the Big 12. I think they did, and they're playing well
I
there.
believe they're in the ACC.
ACC. That's it. Yeah, thank you. I knew they went from, the
The
AAC
AAC. Yeah, they changed
to
out.
the.
They changed out the other A for a C.
That's where I got confused. But you look at BYU; they're 5-0 and 14th ranked, and Indiana at 19 and they're 6-0. I think that's maybe the biggest surprise in college football. Last year you had Rutgers doing well, and this year you have Indiana in that Big 10 or Big 18, as I call it. So it's fun, and Iowa State too. I don't know if they had them at a lot of experts had Iowa State kind of near the bottom of the conference, and they're 5-0. And that's kind of a shocker for the Cyclones and the Hoosiers. Hoosiers, they haven't been good in basketball in a while, and this is unexpected for their football program. So it's shocking, I think. Boise State at 17. It's always good to see a Mountain West school in there for as long as it'll
members
be
of the Pac-12 next season.
Yeah. But I'm not shocked Texas takes number 1 over, and Ohio State's there. Ohio State, by the way, has a gauntlet coming up. It's going to be fun because they play number 3 Oregon next week, and I think it's in Columbus. So Oregon has a test. I'm sorry. It's in Oregon. It's in Oregon at Eugene. So that's going to be a fun game between 2 and 3. The Red River rivalry will be Texas and number 1 Texas and I believe number 19 Oklahoma. So that'll be fun. That's always good when both are ranked, of course, and that usually is the case at the Texas State Fair. Illinois at 23 kind of shocks me as well. It's like all these schools randomly, they're in the top 25. I'm not mad about it. Even though USC's not in it, they don't deserve it, like I mentioned. So it's a lot of fun for college football. And Saturday was just a whirlwind of things. And the next 2 weeks for college football, the schedule is pretty fun. So I'm going to be checking that out definitely on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot going on in FBS. In the FCS circuit, I will speak on that, having worked in FCS football here at the University of San Diego. Their top 25 poll came out. South Dakota State, no surprise, number 1 overall, followed up by North Dakota State, Montana State, South Dakota, and Villanova, 1 through 5. UC Davis, Idaho, Mercer, North Dakota, and Abilene Christian coming in 6 through 10. Southeast Missouri, Central Arkansas, Tarleton State, Montana, and UIW come in 11 through 15. Illinois State, William and Mary, Sacramento State, Rhode Island, and Weber State check in 16 through 20 with Richmond, Lamar, Chattanooga, NAU, and North Carolina Central coming in at 21 through 25. Others receiving votes, in case anyone's wondering: Florida A&M, East Tennessee State University, McNeese State, Southern Illinois, Dartmouth, Lafayette, Stony Brook, UT Martin, Western Carolina, Duquesne, Nichols, New Hampshire, Townsend, Houston Christian University, Butler, Harvard, Monmouth, and Tennessee State. And locally, USD football with a 87-yard fumble recovery to the house and OT to beat Presbyterian at Torero Stadium on Saturday, 27-24. Toreros, I believe, winning that ball game in OT over the Blue Hose, coming in from South Carolina in FCS action in San Diego. I believe USC is back at home on Saturday to take on the Marist Red Foxes in PFL action. All righty, Big Game James, we've certainly gone past our usual 2-hour mark. Time, James, to go, my man, off the board. One topic that you'd like to discuss that was not talked about on this evening's show.
I want to talk about something that I was able to experience on Saturday. And I was at the Logan Ohapi charity event for Corey's Promise. It was a teammate he lost in the minor leagues. And it was a charity event, bowling event. And, regardless of my results, it was great to contribute and be there and take photos with some players and meet some Angel players from the past as well. I think that was cool. But I'm always amazed at the fan support. It seemed like there was no fan support for the Angels this year, but a lot of people came out and spent the money to hang out with these guys, even for minutes or so. And that was a cool thing to experience. I never did that before, where I had a chance to do that with the Clippers for so many years in Norwalk, but I never did. And I never really got like up close and that personal to people, and that was pretty cool. Uh, have you ever participated in something like that, like a charity event? You got to meet some Padre players or, well-known players and talk maybe at them.
Yeah, I
That
think,
was
James,
cool.
my favorite one, there's so many I could go, and I could share countless Tony Gwynn stories when I was a kid at Qualcomm back in the day. Today marks the 23rd anniversary of his final game that he played in San Diego, where Ricky Henderson got his 3,000th hit. I could share Tony Gwynn stories all night if I really wanted to. But the coolest one, James, I believe, came in 2017 during the Breitbart Hall of Fame, which is the San Diego Hall of Champions here in San Diego. And it's been open forever, started by Bob Breitbart, who opened up the sports arena. He's the man responsible for the Gulls coming here in the 60s. He started the Rockets at one point. He was a high school football legend here at Hoover High. And the coolest thing I got to experience, probably away from my job, was being invited by one of the inductees into the Hall of Champions to be a guest at their table. That was Candace Wiggins, the daughter of Padres great Alan Wiggins, who became a basketball superstar during her lifetime, having played here at La Jolla Country Day, played for Tara Vanderveer at Stanford, played in the WNBA for the Minnesota Lynx, won a championship in 2011, played in New York, and then, left the game on her terms. But then, though, it was kind of in a way clouded by commentary made to the Union Tribune, which is the local newspaper, about the gay and lesbian players and things like that. It became a massive bombshell story that came out the day of her ceremony. I was kind of walking on eggshells, and I only say, James, about Candace inviting me to this was pretty damn close. But on Thursday of this week will mark 10 years since I got a chance to interview her when I was in college. A lot like Candace Parker, I got to interview her when I was in college, the same time frame in 2014. But I had already known Candace from her time in high school. I had grown up, as I mentioned earlier, talking about playoff baseball. I grew up playing baseball in San Diego. My dad coached me from the time I was little until I got out of high school and stopped playing the game. And my dad happened to know John Edmond, who is the longtime head coach for baseball at La Jolla Country Day, whose son happens to be Tommy Edmond of the LA Dodgers, who I happen to play with and I know who's a good friend of mine. Regardless, one of these times that we had played Tommy and Coach Edmond at LJCD, there was a basketball tournament going on at the gym, and we would, hang out. Tommy and I would, play football after the games were over, or we'd just be grab assing afterwards. And I recall having to go to the bathroom, and the only bathroom that was open was at the gym. And I walked in and stuff, and it was a packed gym. Like, this doesn't happen for girls basketball or women's basketball at this time. And I walked in and I kind of watched Candace play this game, and they were beating the tar out of this team. And Tammy Bradford's been coaching there for Lord knows how long, and literally I'm like, this Candace Wiggins girl is pretty damn good. So again, I followed her career, and I met her at one point, actually, after one of these games, like, hey, you were the girl I watched play last Sunday, keep up the good work. I like your game and stuff. Like, we kind of, just, shot the shit for a bit. Lo and behold, though, years later, our paths crossed because of me being involved with, broadcasting, being an advocate for women's basketball, women's sports. I was doing my WNBA podcast at that time, and she, again, took that time. And, James, I think I may have talked off the board about my Candace Parker interview. This one, though, was, I think, that much cooler. A San Diego native. We talked for an hour. We talked about stuff about the city. I think, James, the coolest story, though, that Candace shared, though, and I got a little choked up asking her, it was around the time that Tony Gwynn had passed away in 2014. And I remember asking her, what do you remember growing up when your dad was playing here in 84, in the 80s? And what do you remember about, like, your earliest moments about the Padres and about your dad playing for the team? And this has never left my mind or my heart. But when I heard, though, that Alan knew he was sick. Her dad knew that her dad knew that he was sick because at the time he was having complications of AIDS before they knew what AIDS really was in the 80s. Freddie Mercury, stuff like that. But I remember Candace saying that Tony Gwynn was another father while her dad was on his deathbed. And I recall, though, too, her saying, that's why the Wiggins family and the Gwynn family and the Templeton family all bought homes on the same street of where we live, because we all loved each other that much during the run to the World Series in 84 and even after that team ended. And, the Gwynns and the Wiggins are still very close. You had Allen lead off, then you had Tony Gwynn knock him in after he steals second base every time you blink your eyes. But regardless, so we linked up at a game when she was playing in LA with New York, and we got to hang out after the game was over. We went out to a couple of bars after the game was over. We went back to the hotel and partied afterwards because they were on the All-Star break. Then me and my colleague went back home, and then they went back out and partied in Venice and in Hollywood and on Rodeo Drive. But then, though, I opened up the newspaper one day and was fingering through the sports page, and I came across one of the giant box score page of every event from every sport on the back page. And, I applaud Kirk Kenny and the UT here locally, who does a phenomenal job covering high school sports in town. And I'm reading through it, and it was during basketball season. And all of a sudden I see a Wiggins last name at Francis Parker High, literally right down the road from my house. I'm like, there's got to be a connection. There has to be a connection. So I showed up to a game and, saw Meredith, her cousin, play. So it's Meredith and Nate, who are her cousins, who who live here. Their dad is Alan Wiggins's brother. So anyway, we hit it off. So I now am very good friends with Candace and her cousins. So back to my story. Again, long story, shorter story longer. I apologize. But regardless. So every spring, usually, the Hall of Champions will induct 3 new members to the Breitbart Hall of Fame. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go, but man, it's expensive to go to the Town and Country in Mission Valley. And, this is probably one of the, this is why it's so cool, James. So Meredith's team was playing a CIF playoff game the night of the ceremony. So 3 people were gone. So it was, Meredith, Mary Jo, and Don were gone. And I get a text message like the day before from Nate saying, hey, dude, I'm letting you know that Meredith has a playoff game out in Imperial Valley tomorrow, the day of the Hall of Champions dinner. Candace has asked me to invite you and your parents to come to the event. I was beyond taken back. I'm like, we show up, James, me and my parents show up wearing suits and dresses. We hang out with Candace beforehand and stuff and whatnot. And, my parents got to meet her, which was really cool. It made my heart so happy. But we're sitting at the Wiggins family table with, Candace's, relatives, Nate's relatives, Candace's longtime massage therapist showed up, her, again, we're around like Alan Wiggins's family, like one of the greatest Padres of the 84 team at their table. Like, we're sitting amongst Phillip Rivers, Nick Hardwick, Ron Capps, Lance Allworth, like all these San Diego legends who showed up to this event. And it happens every single spring and fall. And the one moment I will also not forget, James, was this was around the time the Chargers had left for Los Angeles. And the Hall of Fame had honored Phillip Rivers. And when Philip came on stage, the whole ballroom gave him a standing ovation. And Philip was fighting back tears. He couldn't really speak, because of him just being so choked up, and he delivered like he usually did for the Chargers when he was, at that podium. And we gave him that standing O because we said, you deserve it. You're not a true Los Angeles Charger. You will forever be a San Diego Charger, regardless of what they say. And then it came to the presenters to speak. So Nick Hardwick spoke. He was inducted. God, I forget who else was inducted, and it's eluding me. It's kind of ticking me off. But then Candace got up and spoke, and her speech was kind of brief. But to be able, though, because she was looking directly at our table where we were sitting, and then to, have this athlete who you have admired from afar from when you were a kid playing baseball at her high school against Tommy Edmond and his dad, who was the baseball coach, but to have Candace, introduce everyone at the table, and then to, have her personally introduce me to the assembled crowd. I'll tell you this much, James. Next time you're at Petco during a regular season game, go to the Breitbart Hall of Fame in left field at the Western Metal Supply Company building. You can see her plaque there. But go to the video screen and type in her name, and it will have her induction speech. You'll see her point at me, look directly at me, and then you'll see the camera cut to me, and you'll see my mom's reaction of like, my son's getting, introduced by this inductee to the Hall of Fame because of what my son has done for her career with that personal interview, what he's doing to raise, advocate for women's sports to be elevated. And now this personal tie, like, holy crap, the McClurg family is now family and friends with the Wiggins family. Like, my goodness, we watched their dad play. Now here's our son learning about Allen through his own way of one of his friends who plays women's pro basketball. And I think, James, it's one of the single greatest things I've been a part of was, it's one thing, James, to, like work 300 games in minor league hockey as I did this past season, or have the Elite Draft League name the championship trophy in postseason after me starting, which will end on Saturday. But there's no greater thrill than being asked by an athlete who you somehow, some way, via the wonders of this damn phone I'm on 24/7, talking to my gal pal, talking to you, talking to group chats, and grilling, former host of this network, that through the means of this and the means of StreamYard, the means of social media, that paths with people like Candace Wiggins and Candace Parker, for me, elevated my career. And I really always thank them every time that the anniversary comes up. I've kind of, retracted a little bit because I know it's kind of gotten old after a long time. After like the first couple years, like, okay, but I still want, make it a point of emphasis about the whole thing. But I think, James, I would probably go with Candace Wiggins asking me and my family to show up to the Hall of Champions dinners, Mike, like that same thing that you were saying regarding, that cool experience of like getting to meet athletes away from the fields of play.
Yeah, that was something I'll never remember. And I can just envision the moment where she calls your name, points at you, and the joy everybody has around you. That's something if that happened to me, I'll never forget that. You mentioned the hockey tournament. Is that this Saturday at Escondido?
Yes. So the McClurg Champions Cup final will take place on Saturday. It'll be the number 1 seed Temecula Vineyard Vipers hosting the number 3 seed Mission Bay Ospreys, who won a overtime thriller about a week or so ago over the number 2 seed North County Surfers. The winners will be crowned. They'll be given a $1,000 check, courtesy of one of our proud partners. The answer is yes. Our league MVP will be getting a WWE Championship belt-style trophy. And then yours truly will be giving out the McClurg Champions Cup to the victorious team captain. And we'll have beers in the parking lot. We'll have beer showers with the champs. And more importantly, sorry, Josh, if I broke the news too early here, but on Wednesday, will be the formal unveiling of the said McClurg Champions Cup trophy on our little media blitz around town. So be sure to follow at Elite Draft League SD or on my personal IG account for the content. But yes, James, that is Saturday, and then we'll be on hiatus from the league until next May.
I got to make it. I got to get out there.
But yeah, James, a great topic though to kick off the board segment though, and I always love sharing those kinds of stories though because again, James, it goes back to what we talked about, and again, I know that I mainly piled on what happened in LA in Game 2 of the DS though, but James, it does remind all of us, and again, I think that I've turned the page for Game 3. I hope everyone else turns the page now for Dodgers Padres in Game 3, but like Logan O'Hoppe, Mickey Moniak, and all the Angel players who hosted that event, and like Candace Wiggins, they're humans like us, folks, and they do have lives. They do have souls. They're not just there making their millions of dollars to play a kid's game. And those stories, I hope, help in a way get people to lay off the slander about these athletes. And I would really hope it does happen eventually, James.
There was another thing I did after that. I went to the Big League Dreams ballparks in Chino.
Oh my goodness. Man, you're bringing back a lot of time warps here, buddy. I played a lot of tournaments out there in Chino.
Yeah, and I never been there. And I noticed there was a lot of basketball courts out there, like in neighborhood parks or little.
Yeah, they used to have an inline hockey rink there, but no, it became an indoor soccer stadium like every other rink I've seen.
That's what we were wondering as we were leaving at night. It's right in the middle
that giant
there.
Tent.
Yeah.
It's an indoor soccer stadium.
So we were at Wrigley Field, and the background was right there. I was like, this is pretty cool. I was playing right field, so nothing was hit to me. So most of the time I was just looking at the art, the paint on that.
I'm trying to rethink. Okay, because I think Chino has Wrigley, Yankee Stadium.
Crossley Field was next to it.
Crossley Field for the Reds, and I think Fenway.
Yeah, that's all I saw.
Because I remember playing a team from Del Mar at Fenway, and we beat them 27-1.
I played 2 softball games. I think we won like 14-7, and then 20-11. It was pretty cool. It was my friend's like picnic, company picnic. But he's like, yeah, you can invite people, and invite me over there after the bowling. Nice. Charity. So Saturday felt like a day when I was a kid, but I was like privileged to go places and to have things. And it was like, what the hell is this? It was
Why am I even here in the first place is what I'm sure you're saying. Like, what I deserve to do this?
Yeah, it felt like an early
and you know what? And before I get to my off the board topic, James, I share that same sentiment though, like regarding Candace saying, Nate, please invite Callan and his family. It would mean the world if him and his parents came out and stuff of that nature. Like it is about that sort of thing. Like you feel like a kid all over again. Like you grow up idolizing these players, or you're, whatever it might be. And then, you literally saying, hey, I got to play at Wrigley Field. I mean, I played at every stadium at that particular complex. I think we won every tournament there, maybe -1. But it's like, man, it's just a lot of time warps here, man. I don't like that.
Yeah, I think at the other stadiums they had like actual softball games going on with like teen girls, I think. So it was actually like
have a ball tournament going on for the weekend. Yeah,
so you can actually hear like real games going on, and here we're just messing around at a adult softball game. Yeah, but it was really great to see. And
drinking Modelo's and Bud Lights and 805s, you name it.
That was cool too. They actually had like a stadium club area. And
because I hope this happened, James. I believe if you had to pay to get in, you got that giant silver token for a free drink, I believe, at the restaurant.
Well, they had already with the company, they already had like drinks lined up and
because
food.
Usually if you go there for a tournament, you pay to get in. Well, one of your big things, you can't make travel and youth events paid. Come on now. You can't be forcing admission. But when I played there, you would pay to get in, and they would give you a wooden token or a silver token for a free soda or Gatorade or drink minus alcohol and liquor at the club that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's called Stadium Club, but they had all the games on. They had the air conditioning going, so it was great after the first game. I went in there.
And some bomb-ass pizza, my friend.
Yeah, I saw the last, of that road game and watching the Padre game, and then they need me for the third game. Okay, and it was just great, but it was hot at first, and then the wind came and it was
And it got
cooler.
cold, I'm sure, didn't it?
Not too much, no, not where I was in Chino. It wasn't too cold. It was still pretty hot, and I was hot from running around. I don't think I ever made out either. I walked once, but the rest of the time I either had a single, double, or a triple, and I haven't done that ever. Being
Right fielder number 32, James Gonzales.
that was pretty cool. I'll never forget that day. That was
Yeah.
just a huge day. And when I was leaving, Sunday to go back home, I was like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to ever leave. It was that
That's
cool.
literally how I felt the night of when I linked up with Candace after she played in LA with the Liberty. We got kicked out of the arena by the dreaded Redcoats, not the
Ugh.
British are coming, but the crypto.com Redcoats. And we happened to bump into each other at the frickin' Figueroa Street crosswalk. We got to, she said, come to the hotel, hang with us for a bit. So we went to the Lux City Center Hotel, 2 blocks away from Staples, and we chopped it up in the lobby, took some photos, and had a couple of drinks. Then we went out for a bit. Then we went home, and then I went home. It was great.
That sounds awesome, man. Wow.
But anyway, my off the board though, James, actually happened on Friday this week. It was my first official event for the San Diego Major League Soccer franchise, held at the 1835 Creative Studios on Imperial Avenue. All these supporter groups, James. So as you mentioned about the Falcons playing where Atlanta United also plays, and now they have the section built for their supporters. I joined one of the groups, which is a Star Wars loving soccer group called the 18th Battalion. Shout out Eddie Lopez, by the way, our fearless leader who invited me out to the event. James, very cool night to kind of, see some old faces, get hyped for the upcoming MLS season. A lot of great media coverage. Beto Perez from KIOZ Rock 105.3 was the in-house DJ. There was, flags and drum lines, chanting, beer showers, bomb-ass Mexican food from Barracuda Catering Company, linking up with all the new groups who are supporting the new supporting SDFC, the new soccer franchise here. And I think, James, we topped out at, 800 people at this very small, rundown building on Imperial Avenue by Petco. Very cool, free drinks, food was paid for, or you had to pay for your food. It was cool to, again, meet some new people. And I think, James, it really, made a statement, though. And I recall, having to, give out my long spiel to a certain, person that very well who used to work for this network about, tortured fan bases in sports. And it's not really been talked a lot about. We have, Buffalo has their history, but it is, James, tough to be a native of San Diego and here the weather's fine. You don't deserve to win in professional sports. Enjoy the weather, go eat tacos, drink your craft beer, sit on the sand, watch the waves come in, and don't worry about baseball or any sports out there. And James, it's a personal, again, I take that personally. The quote Michael Jordan from The Last Dance. I take those, knives in the back personally because, we have the weather, we have this. It goes back, James, to my beloved man, Junior Seau. When the Chargers came home from Pittsburgh in 94, 690, 91X all came out. The stadium was full. And Junior got on the mic and said, leading up to when they were leaving to go to San Francisco, when they came home from Pittsburgh to go to the Super Bowl, Junior said, and I only remember it, and now the world is going to know about the San Diego Chargers. I have taken that quote to heart ever since then, but now I put in the Padres. But, James, more importantly, is that what people fail to remember, and I think this was brought up on Monday morning on 97.3 The Fam by Jeff Passan, who was on the morning show on Monday, was that the Padres are the only professional major league sport. Yes, I had the Soccers for 11 years in indoor soccer. I have the goals. I have all this stuff going on, but it's not in Major League Baseball, not on people's radars, basically. And then there's the other antidote. You can support the Chargers. It's only an hour north. It's LA, San Diego. They're both the same thing. That's the one that I take offense to. Look at a map. They're not the same thing. And Jeff Pass said it right, though, James. Different cultures, different philosophies, differences in culture, diversity, you name it. And I think, James, that going to this event, though, on Friday proved, I think, that it was long overdue for Major League Soccer to go to San Diego. And there's been a very great, rich tradition of soccer in this town, dating back to 68 when the Toros played in the NASL. The Soccers having their amazing runs, outdoor and indoor. The Jaws playing for a year. Again, the Soccers going from outdoor to indoor, 10 titles in 11 seasons. Them coming back in the CISL in the mid-90s, them coming back in 2009, them winning 4 more titles, then them adding on 2 more post-COVID happening. Now them moving on to create a new legacy, at their new arena in Oceanside that will host the Clippers on Tuesday. And now, James, that for a market who has been looking for another team on that upper echelon, no more NFL, NBA's never coming back, NHL is very much hit or miss. Now to have the proper version of football, come at me if you want to, trolls. I don't give a crap. It was very cool to be a part of, man, and I'm looking forward to it. Me and all my supporter friends were talking about, is it going to be the Galaxy as our main rival, LAFC? Will it be both? What about the Quakes? What about other teams in the conference? I said, that's cool, but I look more like the legacy rivalries. San Diego, San Jose, San Diego, Portland, San Diego, Seattle, San Diego, Vancouver, San Diego, Montreal, all teams who played in the NASL, the first real try at soccer being established on the outdoor level in the States. And it was very successful at one point in time with the Toros here and the Soccers. LA had the Aztecs at one point in time. Other teams who've been out there. It was cool, though, James, to kind of see the foundation being laid. I do know if there's still some resentment. I'm not here to judge the San Diego soccer fan base if you're going to be supporting SDFC or not. I will be because, hey, the jersey says San Diego. It's hashtag San Diego versus everybody. I know there's still some disdain about what happened with San Diego Loyal. I totally get it. But let's not get into a civil war about if you support SDFC, screw you, vice versa. Let's celebrate, though, that San Diego's finally getting recognized as another major sports market by adding a league that I believe, James, has looked here for a long time, never have a stadium properly in place with Qualcomm, and now having Snapdragon, the success of the Soccers throughout the course of their indoor history, the success now of the NWSL being here with the San Diego Wave, all the other minor league or other soccer clubs who have played here in town who did not last beyond a couple of years, that this should be celebrated, though, in some way. And again, I totally respect those who are like, I'm not quite ready to do that yet because I love the loyal. I don't like the ownership group of, with their ties to blood money in Egypt and so on and so forth, though. I think, though, James, when you're a market like San Diego, who's got the cross-border connection with Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, you have the chance now to cross-promote with the Cholos of La Liga or of Liga MX down in Mexico. Now, though, James, when you and also, James, you have a market that's always in the top 5 or top 10 in TV viewership for every men's national team game, every women's national team game, probably every El Tri Mexican national team game, men's or women's, and better yet, James, every EPL and European or Bundesliga match over in Europe. Bars are packed at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Everton play, watch Man City play, watch Leicester City play, watch Arsenal play. I don't care who it is, James. When you're always in that market or in that bracket, you deserve the franchise. And it's nice to see, though, that the community has embraced it. Again, I know, like I said earlier, though, but having Manny Machado investing his money in the club, being a part of the ownership group, with Saquon Band and the Kumeyaay Nation becomes the first full-time or full ownership group of a franchise in sports history, minus the Connecticut Sun, who are owned by the Mohegan Sun Tribe in Uncasville, Connecticut, and that there's a buzz around SDFC. You know, having Chucky Lozano sign as the first player in club history away from Duran Ferree, that right there establishes the Mexican, the Baja California Mexican fan base who now will come to games against Tijuana, but come probably whenever San Diego's at home. And more importantly, James, I'm guessing San Diego hosts Lionel Messi at Snapdragon next season in 2025. But maybe, James, your thoughts about seeing MLS finally coming to San Diego after, again, the Chargers leaving, the uncertainty about the stadium, and now, James, another major sports league is coming to San Diego effective in February of next year.
Man, I could imagine Messi, the ticket prices for that here would be outrageous. I mean, it was in LA, but for San Diego to get that would be awesome. I was just, talking with a Taylor Swift fan, and they're always thinking, hey, she's going to have a show in San Diego. No, she'll never have a show here. But Messi will be
big
here.
Enough.
Yeah, but it's
Unless
big enough for Messi.
Petco, maybe.
Yeah, that would be something.
Because you'd be able to, I think you would have to park people in Gallagher Square and turn the giant screen on back there.
That would be something.
Probably get 50,000 people in there.
Yeah, but right away you mentioned Messi, and that's a attention getter. And then the fact that Manny Machado is one of the co-owners of the team. That's pretty big.
He's an investor
too.
in the team. Yeah,
you're seeing more athletes become co-owners or owners of teams, owners.
James Harden, Kevin Durant, notably,
in all different type of leagues as well. I think that's pretty cool.
Got to thank Magic Johnson for starting that trend. I think, honestly, you really do.
Yeah, that was given, by Bus to him, definitely. Yeah, I'll hopefully get to a game next year, maybe with you. I don't know anybody else that would go, but I got to get more into it to know more, of course. So I'm not even sure if I'll go to any, soccer games here in Oceanside. I'll see if I can. Or if
I'm going to try to go to a couple just to kind of see how the arena looks and stuff, for sure.
Let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll meet you there. So I'll go off of that, and that'll get me more into, having the MLS team. I think that'd be a launch, I think, to get me more into soccer and locally. I think that would be more of a launch if I do that. I still got to do the hockey league. I still got to do that on Saturday. So there's a lot of things.
You're waiting
I'm
until
not
late
into.
June, my friend, at this rate.
Yeah. So I got to get into all of that. If we have a final thoughts segment, I got something crazy that is true that involves someone that will be playing today in San Diego.
Final thoughts for the night show, James, or what?
So this came out ABC 7 Eyewitness News, Los Angeles. Dodgers pitcher Walker Buehler is robbed of his watch after he and his wife were ambushed by a mob at Santa Anita Park. The watch is believed to be valued over $100,000. And isn't Walker Buehler the Game 3 starter for LA?
Yes, and what in the HE double hockey sticks are you doing at a horse racing track the night before Game 3?
This has, shades
when you've already had issues with an old employee on the team.
I'm reading that. I'm like, no, this can't be true. But it's the, what do you call it? The BS, the Bleacher Report, but it's the baseball one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It has shades of like Tommy. Remember Tommy Pham was at a ballet and by the airport here in San Diego before a game. Or no, that was in December. Right? No, that was before the season.
When he got stabbed at the strip club or in downtown after a game.
No, at the ballet, the strip club.
Yeah.
And then it reminds me of Antonio Cromartie being out late before the playoff game.
Vincent Jackson.
And yeah, there was a host of other
Vincent
Charger
Jackson.
players there. Yeah, I'm thinking, why is he at Santa Anita Park before a game? Like, he should be at his, family's house. Maybe it's a getaway or something, but LA is awful now. Well, anywhere is awful, but LA is just an awful
I mean,
place.
I
to be
feel
in.
bad that he got robbed, but also it's like, Walker, read the room. Santa Anita Park, horse
In the middle of the playoffs.
racing, middle, not just James, not even that. Horse racing.
Betting. Otani's your teammate.
Put it all together.
You were in Korea with him.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's wow.
To add to the Dodgers' struggles at the plate, and then you have all the pitcher injuries, and now you have someone starting who's 1-6, I believe.
Yep.
Oh yeah, one error that I had, like PTI would do during the show or at the end of the show. I said the Bengals were 1-5. They're 1-4. So that was my one error of the game.
Can we just start calling them
the show?
Can we just start calling them the Bungles again?
The Burrow Bungles. After all the receivers leave, it's just the Burrow Bungles.
Doesn't really flow very well, sadly, there.
But he's their main meal ticket.
Yeah, sadly, he is right now. With that in mind, folks, final thoughts. Again, thanks for bearing with us. Nearing a record of 3 hours long, but we topped out at a pretty good amount of viewers tonight, though. We had a lot though to unpack, though. Again, we have the weekend to unpack, and then we have Monday to unpack. So that's why we're in this, Monday time zone now here on C2C at night. My final thoughts, as James alluded to earlier, again, the San Diego Elite Draft League McClurg Champions Cup final. I still can't believe I'm saying that.
That's
the finals
cool,
will take place on Saturday at 7:00 in the evening from the Escondido Sports Center. We are right now planning on a playoff primer, or a finals primer, I should say, to preview the final, talk more about the league and and all that good stuff. We're planning that for Friday at 7:00 before James and the gang take over on Entertainment Hour at 8:00 on Friday. But again, we're working on that because, again, we have a lot of stuff, though, that we are, in fact, working on for content purposes this upcoming week. I know that on Wednesday, myself and Commissioner Fontaine will be taking the trophy out for its grand unveiling and its grand circle tour of the city. Again, be sure you're following at Elite Draft League SD for all the content that we will, in fact, be sharing over the next couple days, starting on Wednesday, to get the stage really set for the league final between the number 1 seed Temecula Vineyard Vipers and number 3 seed Mission Bay Ospreys at 7:00. And the champs will be getting a $1,000 prize check for winning the league, courtesy of our league partner. The answer is yes. Our league MVP is taking home a WWE style MVP title belt, and then Callan McClurg, yours truly, will be handing off the McClurg Champions Cup to the winning captain, either Matt Hamilton or Noe Santos. Will be taking home that trophy for his team on Saturday. So if you were in the area, folks, need something to do to get your hockey fix, again, come out on Saturday, 7:00 Pacific time. Again, it's the San Diego Elite Draft League final game of the season. Again, it's the McClurg Champions Cup. I can't believe I'm saying that still again. The McClurg Champions Cup finals will take place on Saturday, but again, on Wednesday will be our grand unveiling on social media of the trophy. And again, myself and Josh, and I believe our good man Gabe John, who's been sadly out of commission because of COVID, we all should be taking the trophy for a grand circle tour of the city, starting off at the rink and then moving our way to other landmarks and scenic spots in San Diego. So again, put that in the calendar right now. Again, the MCC finals will take place on Saturday at 7:00. With that in mind, folks, Prestro will be back with you as well on Thursday at this rate, looking to get either a early afternoon or a late night show in on Thursday, depending on what I'm doing in the day. Again, I'm off from work all week, but again, still trying to get some rest here and there after a pretty long week of work this past week. With that, folks, in mind, thanks again for bearing with us over the course of a near 3-hour program. For James Gonzales, yours truly, Cal McClurg, saying good night and good morning, wherever you may in fact be. We'll see you folks back here again, same bat time, same bat channel next Monday, back here on C2C at night, folks. Till next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.